good afternoon, good day, wherever you are, maybe good morning on. It is the 20th of March, 21, and we're here for part two with 56 pages to read. Part two, Does the Vatican Own Thy Soul? I'm going to go steady, and I'm going to say thank you for the comments, the feedback, positive and negative, with regards to these controversies contained within. So we're going to start again this Saturday afternoon. It might be a good 3 hours. Forewarning, if your head's not in the game and you're not as agile mentally as what you should be or could be, then maybe come back and see us when you are. We ended the last. Let me just mark that. We ended the last cast up to the 3 hour point with a little bit of mentalization, if I may termify it as that, with regards to taking yourself away, holding attention, focusing your attention, and Barabbas, remember that name. If you haven't seen part one, perhaps you should go away, because none of this will make sense to you, and go and look at part one after this streamcast reciting is finished. I will put them in a playlist, and then I may also download them and join them together to make a 6-7 hour bonanza marathon. Claire and Gansders, I think, just popped up on the screen. So all that are here now and joined, Bosch, notice the absence of the rings. I'm happy to bring this to you. What is it? You should know what it is by looking at part one, so I will not waffle on there. We don't want it to be like you're waiting for a bus now, do we? So we were talking about clouds, relaxing, and Jericho, Barabbas, Jesus. So we had a minute's silence, and we had a little hello, close down, and it continues on after that silence period that's ended part one as this. So let's just say hello to Gans, Black Cat, Lisa, Claire, and anybody else that's hither. Shabba, much love to one and all. Thank you for joining, and I shall continue on. The backdrop, yes, I thought I'm getting an Egyptian one. Got the Eye of Ra coming, and I've got one with Horus coming, so you should be pleasantly surprised by some Egyptian ethnic style backdrops, rather than this grey city and mini cabs behind. But I thought it would do better than what was there before, so I am trying. So after that silence period, or whatever you want to call it there, that little bit of meditation, and Barabbas, Jesus, sentencing, crucifixion, resurrections, all these stories that we are reenacting. If you now begin to let go and enter into the feeling of actually being what you want to be, where you want to be, it continues on with, if your hands are dry and your mouth is dry at the end of that meditation, that is positive proof that you did succeed in lifting the cloud. What you were doing when the cloud was lifted is entirely your business, but you did lift the cloud if your hands are dry. The author and I, by proxy, will give you another phenomenon which is very strange, and one that they cannot analyze. It happens when you go into the deep. You will find on waking that you have the most active pair of kidneys in the world. This author has discussed it with doctors, and they cannot explain it. Another thing you may observe in meditation is a lovely light blue light. The nearest thing on earth to which the author can compare it to is the burning alcohol. You know, when you put may or may not have lit alcohol on the shots, and you light them, put your hand on it, and hirika, or yamas, as they say in Greece, that kind of a blue. Or on a particular cake, it's Xmas time. You know, that lovely blue that comes off the flame. It envelops. That flame is the nearest thing to the blue light which comes at the forehead of man in meditation. My mum has explained to me, and others have explained to me, about seeing the 1,000-petal lotus leaf. Generally, it's not always the same for everyone, but meditation and going deep within. Do not be distressed. You will know when you see it. It is like two shades of blue, a darker and a lighter blue. For this author, it may be relevant for you, it may not, but we'll just carry on. A darker and a lighter blue in constant motion, just like the burning alcohol reference. It is unlike the constant flame of a gas jet. The flame is alive, just as spirit would be alive. Another thing that may come to you, as it did to this author, you may see spots before your eyes. These are not liver spots, as some people will tell you who know nothing about it. Meditation, that is. These are little things that float in space like a mesh, little circles all tied together. They may start with a single cell and then come in groups in different geometrical patterns, like worms, like trailers, eye floaters. And they float all over your face when you close your eyes, and you still see them, proving that they are not from without, they are from within. When you begin to expand in consciousness, all these things come. They may be your bloodstream objectified by some strange trick of man that man does not quite understand. I am not denying that it is your bloodstream made visible, but do not be distressed by thinking it's liver spots or some other silly thing that people will tell you. If these various phenomena come to you, do not think you are doing something wrong. It is the normal, natural expansion that comes to all men who take themselves in tow and try to develop the Garden of Gethsemane. The minute you begin to discipline your mind by observing your thoughts and watching your thoughts throughout the day, you become the policeman of your thoughts. The constable, policeman, that's fair enough, isn't it? Not an officer. Refuse to enter into conversations that are unlovely. Refuse to listen attentively to anything that tears down. Begin to build within your own mind's eye with the vision of the perfect virgin rather than the vision of the foolish virgin. Listen only to the things that bring joy when you hear them. Do not give a willing ear to that which is unlovely, which when you heard it, if you wish you had not. That is listening and seeing things without oil in your lamp or joy in your mind. There are two kinds of virgins in the Bible, the author writes. Two kinds of virgins in the Bible. 5 foolish and 5 wise virgins. The minute you become the wise virgin or try to make an attempt to do it, you will find all these things may happen. You will see things and they interest you so that you have not the time to develop the foolish side as many people do. I hope that no one listening to this or reading this publication, once we republish it, no one should be identified with this great work who can still find great joy in the discussion of another that is unlovely. Positive mental attitude, and such things on media networks where we found that there are ones that take energy vampires, ones that are always negative, not always negative, but you are the product of the 5 people that you most frequent with and things like that. So mindfulness, mentalization, positiveness, using your energy in beneficial ways. Not everything in life is lovely and easy to deal with, but just try to limit the amount of negativity, as you will find you can benefit and have better mental health. Now we're on day 3, thinking 4th dimensionally. So this is the 3rd part out of the 5 parts of this 96-page document here. So we're halfway through, nearly halfway through, even though it's 3 out of 5. We're on page 41 of 96, so we're approaching the halfway mark, and we're on effectively day 3 of 5 with regards to where we are overall. There are 2 actual outlooks on the world possessed by every man, duality perhaps, and the ancient storytellers were fully conscious of these 2 outlooks. They called one the carnal mind and the other the mind of Christ. When we've said before, and we've discussed, and I say that we have a Christ-like consciousness, That would be something, dimensionally speaking, frequency speaking, inwardly projecting, outwardly attracting, law of attraction, power of intent. Let me recap for you, because it's quite a journey on from the first part, which ended 3 hours in. All right, so mentalization and positivity there. Christ-like consciousness. We come with Jesus, Allah, Buddha, Yahweh, etc. I could go lots of names to drop in there. We come with Jesus, but we have got the with a Christ-like consciousness, the intent, the mind, the willingness, the openness. So the mind of Christ. Remember the Egyptian Ankh, the straight with the cross. Yes, I really do need a whiteboard and some more studio effects here. But think of when we say pre-Christian gnosis and Christianity before Christianity, and we reference what we referenced in addition to this author's input with the books and ancient antiquities and antiquated. They're known to us as mythology, which isn't myth so much, it's more facts than myth. And the actual facts were presented, and his story is more of a story than the actual myth. So we look at Christianity, the pre-Christian cross, and such things that we've discovered before the actual creation of Catholicism, all right, and the Vatican, essentially the Romans, before Romans and Vatican, and actual the formation of any Torah, we'll say, because that would be the first kind of Hebraic Phoenician text that we found. Before that, there is evidences of crosses, okay, worship type, religious, spiritual crosses. So we find pre-Christian crosses. One easy example for me to give you would be the Egyptian Ankh, which is the straight line with the cross, but instead of the top point, so it's like that, isn't it then? A line with a T shape, and at the top of the T, you have a loop. So it's just the loop was straightened out to make then the full cross symbol. All right, so the ancients and the storytellers, shamanic references, pictograms, glyphs that we found, geoglyphs, the Nazca lines, tribes, Indians, and Peru, Pumapunka. I could go on forever. We did touch upon Angkor Wat and the temple there. We got a reference from Gansders just after the one for Angkor Wat. So again, much to correct along the lineages of history, times, religion. I've only gone far as 6,000 BC, which is a total of 8,000 years in the timeline for 2,000 minus 2, 0, 6,000, 6 to 8,000 lineage. And I've gone from Zoroastrianism, Ishtar, and such other magi, moving up through to the point of, and then where we are now. So we recognize that these two centers of thought in the statement, the natural man, or authentic being as we like to say, received not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. Corinthians 2:14. To the natural mind, reality is confined to the instant called now, the moment. This very moment seems to contain the whole of reality. Everything else seems to be unreal. To the natural mind, the past and the future are purely imaginary. In other words, my past, when I use the natural mind, is only a memory image of things that were. And to the limited focus of the carnal or natural mind, the future does not exist. The natural mind does not believe that it could revisit the past and see it as something that is present, something that is objective and concentrates to itself. Neither does it believe that the future exists. To the Christ mind, the spiritual mind, which in our language we will call the fourth dimensional focus, the past, the present, and the future of the natural mind are a present whole. It takes in the entire array of sensory impressions that man has encountered, is encountering, and will indeed encounter. The only reason you and I are functioning as we are today and are not aware of the greater outlook may simply be because we are creatures of habit, and habit renders us totally blind to what otherwise we should see. Familiarity breeds contempt. But habit is not law. It acts as though it were the most compelling force in the world, but yet it is not law. No, indeed, habits can indeed be broken. We can create a new approach to life. If you and I would spend a few moments every day in withdrawing our attention from the region of sensation and concentrating it on an invisible state, and remain faithful to this contemplation, feeling and sensing the reality of an invisible state, we would in time become aware of this greater world, this dimensionally larger world. The state contemplated is now a concrete reality displaced in time. Now, as we turn to our Bible for reference, you can be the judge as to where you stand in your present unfoldment. I do believe the author of this is a heavily involved Christian, practitioner. And, when I mentioned these areas here, I'm just reading it as of the author's written it. We will, after this presentation has been completed and the document has been uploaded to SPLS Pro, we will then have further discussions and deliberate and take questions and answers once it's had time to be scrutinized, objectified, digested, chewed upon. Our first story now is from the 5th chapter, a story of the Gospel of Mark. In this chapter, there are 3 stories told as they are separate experiences of the dominant characters. In the first story, we are told that Jesus came upon an insane man, a naked man who lived in the cemetery and hid himself behind the tombs. This man appealed to Jesus not to cast out the devils that bedeviled him, but Jesus said unto him, "Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit." Mark 5:8. Thus Jesus cast out the devils that they may now destroy themselves, and we find this man for the first time clothed and in his right mind and seated at the feet of the master. There's no R in master. We will get the physical sense of this chapter by changing the name Jesus to that of the enlightened reason or 4th dimensional thinking. So as we progress through this chapter, we are told that Jesus now comes upon the high priest, whose name is Jairus, Jairus. And as Yanka is spelt with a J, and we say Yanka, J, I would argue, but Jesus is spelt with a J, and we say, yeah, well, it's Jesus, certain things. So I'm going to say Jairus. And Jairus, the high priest of the synagogue, has a child who is dying. She is 12 years old and appeals to Jesus to come and heal the child. Jesus consents. As he starts toward the home of the high priest, a woman in the marketplace touched his garment. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, "Who touched my clothes?" Mark chapter and verses is 5:30. The woman who was healed of an issue of blood that she had had for 12 years confessed that she that touched him. And he said unto her, "Daughter, thy faith has made thee whole. Go in peace." Mark 5:34. As he continues towards the home of the high priest, he is told that the child is dead and there is no need to go to resurrect her. She is no longer asleep, but is now past. As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he say unto the ruler of the synagogue, "Be not afraid, only believe." Mark 5:36. And when he was come in, he saith unto them, "Why make ye this ado, and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth." Mark 5:39. With this, the entire crowd the entire crowd mocked and laughed. But Jesus, closing the doors against the mocking crowd, took with him unto the household of Jairus his disciples and the father and mother of the dead child. They entered into the room where the damsel was lying, and he took the damsel by the hand and said unto her, "Damsel, I say unto thee, arise." Mark 5:41. And from this deep sleep she awoke and arose and walked. And the high priest and all others were indeed astonished. And he changed them straight that no man should know it. and he commanded that something should be given to her to eat. Mark 5:43. You are this very night, as you are seated here, pictured in this 5th chapter of Mark. A cemetery is for one purpose. It is simply a record of the dead. Are you living in the dead past? If you are living among the dead, your prejudices, your superstitions, and your false beliefs that you keep alive are the tombstones behind which you will hide. If you refuse to let them go, you are just as mad as the madman of the Bible who pleaded with the enlightened reason not to cast them out. There is no difference, but enlightened reason is incapable of protecting prejudice and superstition against the inroads of reason. There is not a man in this world who has a prejudice, regardless of the nature of the prejudice, who can hold it up to the light of reason. Told you, this is an incredible read. Tell me you are against a certain nation, a certain race, a certain ism, a certain anything. I do not care what it is. You cannot expose that belief of yours to the light of reason and have it live. In order that it may be kept alive in your world, you must hide it from reason. You cannot analyze it in the light of reason and have it live. I like that. When this 4th dimensional focus comes and shows you a new approach to life and casts out of your own mind all these things that bedeviled you, are then cleansed and clothed in light, clothed in your right mind. And you sit at the foot of understanding, called the feet of the Master. Now, clothed and in your right mind, you can resurrect the dead. What dead, you ask? The child in the story is not a child. The child is your ambition, perhaps, your desire, the unfulfilled dreams of your heart. This is the child housed within the mind of man. For as I have stated, the entire drama of the Bible is a psychological one, as we said to the literalists and the ones that are given feedback and the P raise for the works and the discoveries and the Christian disclosure that I, David, via this channel, Indie Glow, and our lawful discoveries with regards to, mainly the trust technologies. As I pointed out, trust is old since day dot, and it's pointed out in these books here from the first book of Moses, Genesis, and the trust that are there, the naked trust of Genesis. So the literalists are, some of them are being respectful in the paradigms and the the interpretations of the word of the book, and there are 3 main ones that we've mentioned when we say Christian books, with regards to the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the KJV. And I know there's tens of others editions of Bibles, and obviously the Quran comes into it, the Torah, and etc. So the Bible seemingly has no reference at all to any person who ever existed or any event that ever occurred upon this earth. All the stories of the Bible, or as I call it, the heliocentric bibliothèque, unfold in the minds of the individual man. You may want to just take them literally up until this point, or you have taken them literally and you found me, this channel, our family, trust, clan, etc., and now you're having revelations brought upon you. So thank you for the P-raise, thank you for the criticism, the grumbles, and etc. This work is for us all, and we're just helping out and giving and sharing, as is our duty as messengers across the ages. So in this story, Jesus is the awakened intellect of man. When your mind functions outside the range of your present senses, when your mind is healed of all the former limitations, then you are no longer the insane man, but you are this presence personified as Jesus, the power that can resurrect the longings of the heart of man. You are now the woman with the issue of blood. What is this issue of blood? A running womb, that's what it actually says, is not a productive womb. She held it for 12 years. She was incapable of conceiving. She could not give form to her longing because of the running of the issue of blood. You are told her faith closed it. As the womb closes, it can give form to the seed or idea. As your mind is cleansed of your former concept of self, you assume you are what you want to be, and remaining faithful to this assumption or assertion, I don't know, it says assumption, you give form to your assumption or resurrect your child. You are the woman cleansed of the issue of blood, and you move towards the house of the dead child. The child or state you desired is now your fixed concept of yourself. But now, having assumed that I am what I desire to be, I cannot continue desiring what I am conscious of being, so I do not discuss it. I talk to no one concerning what I am. It is so obvious to me that I am what I wanted to be, that as I walk though I were. Walking as though I am what I formerly walking as though I am what formerly I wanted to be, my world of limited focus does not see it and thinks I no longer desire it. The child is dead within their world, but I, who know the law, say, the child is not dead, the damsel is not dead, she but sleepeth. I now awaken her. I, by my assumption, awaken and make visible in my world what I assume. For assumptions, if sustained, invariably awaken what they affirm. I close the door. What door? The door of my senses. I simply shut out completely all that my senses reveal. I deny the evidence of my senses. I suspend the limited reason of the natural man and walk in this bold assertion that I am what my senses deny. The Doors. The name of the band, The Doors. Was it Aldous Huxley? The Doors. There's a good other separate publication that I'd like to bring up later on, just a mental note, pin that. With the door of my senses closed, what do I take into that disciplined state? I take no one into that state but the parents of the child and my disciples. I close the door against a mocking, laughing crowd. I no longer look for confirmation. I completely deny the evidence of my senses which mock my assumption, and do not discuss with others whether my assumption is possible or not. I've closed a few doors on the naysayers, on the trills and negativity, on attacks, defamation of character, slander, libelous comments, and it's knowing and having, yes, closing the door, not physically, but you see, there's a lot of good messages and translations for you to work out here that psychologically will benefit. Who are the parents? We have discovered that the father, mother of all creation, is man's I amness. Man's consciousness is God. I am conscious of the state. I am the father - mother of all my ideas, and my mind remains faithful to this new concept of self. My mind is disciplined. I take into the state the disciples, and I shut out that state of everything that would deny it. Now the child, unaided by a man, is resurrected. The condition which I desired and assumed that I had become objectified within my world, and bears witness to the power of my assumption. You be the judge. I cannot judge you. You are either living now in the dead past, or you are living as the woman whose issue of blood has been stanched. Could you actually answer me if I asked you the question? Which one are you? Stuck in past. I'm not living in past. The monkey mind, you may have seen with me a progression, I hope you have, of character, and the monkey mind, the mentalization and the mental health aspect of this is very relevant and practical, and it applies to us all, especially in these times now. Do you believe now that you, without the assistance of another, need only assume that you are what you want to be, to make the assumption real within your world? Or do you believe that you must first fulfill a certain condition imposed upon you by the past, that you must be of a certain order or a certain something? I am not being critical of certain churches or groups, but there are those who believe that anyone outside of their church or group is not yet saved. This author was born a Protestant. You talk to a Protestant or Protestant, There is only one Christian, a Protestant. You talk to a Catholic, why, there is nothing in the world that is Christian but a Catholic. You talk to a Jew, and the Christians are heathens. Yeah, goyim is the word I believe I saw through that. And the Jews are the chosen. You talk to a Mohammedan, Jews and Christians are the infidels. You talk to somebody else, and all these are the untouchables. It does not matter to whom you talk. They're always the chosen ones. If you believe that you must be one of these in order to be saved, you are still an insane man hiding behind these superstitions and these prejudices of the past, and you are begging not to be cleansed. So you see now, with the a proclamation of sovereignty explained, how we bring in the Abrahamic and we put together as one, so all three major faiths there, and we would like to rise above the barriers and certain restrictions that we've put upon ourselves. And in my travels, I have witnessed churches, Bosnia, either Bosnia, Serbia, or Croatia, or all of them, churches, and on the top where they have the spire, they will have a crescent moon and a cross. To my astonishment, I was like, and I have photos of that. You can find them, and you may have seen them on your travels as well. And with regards to positive mental attitude, the law of attraction, the power of intent, mind over matter, consciousness forming reality inwardly, outwardly, the separation of my blood, and man being separated, man being separated from their children, their blood, what they've sired, and the anguish and the alienation that forms from not being in contact, as I have mentioned to you, why I got into this, how I got into this, Sheffield Crown Courts and High Courts with regards to access rights as a non-residential dad at the time, parent with a barrister, 2 years, £20,000 to go through that, if I may say a naughty word, if you'd like to turn down the volume or put your headphones in, pause it, and I shall continue on. But that shit show of a state of affairs with regards to personage, barratry, and the pompousness that went off to get me a court writ, which was some scribble on a bit of paper, and the mental anguish that you will have, the emotional tolerance, and how you must try to focus that and manage it. It's not that you don't care, that you're not seeing your your offspring, your assets and your blood. It's that you can't let that alienation and separation and detachment from self, in a way, because they are in the image of you, mum and dad, so 50% dad, 50% mum. And when one of the two, whichever one it is, mum or dad, is separated, and there's a residential parent and a non-residential parent, grant or set law, etc. But let me just speak at ease here. I'm not speaking legalese. I'm just speaking in commanding English, the common tongue. But that can cause mass depression, mass anxiety, and further complications to life. So cleansing yourself and moving forward with, it's not just about whatever you may have got it focused on. It's a very broad spectrum in itself. Insanity, superstitions, prejudices of the past, cleansing yourself. So some of you say, do not ask me to give up my belief in Jesus the man, or in Moses the man, or in Peter the man. When you ask me to give up my belief in these characters, you are simply asking too much. Or Muhammad, I don't believe Muhammad was mentioned there, or Buddha, anything like that. Leave me these beliefs because they comfort me. I can believe that they lived upon the earth and still follow your psychological interpretation of their stories. Yes, you can. You can indeed, do that. But you have a comfortable relationship with these names and figures. And as I said, with Depeche Mode and your own personal Jesus, it's not about here to insult or to cause upset or whatever, but you need to know the actual power of prayer, the hermeticism. I ultimately am a hermeticist, and I follow the hermetical universal principles, and I am not so much a strict modern day Christian, Catholic, Buddhist or anything, let that be said. I'm using all of this information, all of this dialogue, all of these publications and scriptures and passages to cross-examine and to bring to the table for examination and cross-referencing, simply as. But ultimately, those that are putting on comments about Christianity and pagans and etc., I am here to put you as a student of hermetical alchemy, mental alchemy, physical alchemy aside. There's much like the quantum side of life, there's a great varied amount of it. So I say, come out of the dead past, come out of that cemetery and walk knowing that you and your Father are one, and your Father, who men call God, is your own consciousness. That is the only creative law in the world. Of what are you conscious of being? Although you cannot see your objective with the limited focus of your three-dimensional mind at present, you are now that which you have assumed you are. Walk in that assumption and remain faithful to it. Time in this dimension of your being beats slowly, and you may not, even after you objectify your assumption, remember there was a time when this present reality was but an attitude of mind. Because of the slowness of the beat of time, here you will often fail to see the relationship between your inner nature and the outer world that bears witness to it. You can be the judge of the position you now occupy in this 5th chapter of Mark. Are you resurrecting the dead child? Are you still in need of having that womb of your mind closed? Is it still running and therefore cannot be fertile? Are you now the insane man living in the dead past? Only you can be the judge, and only you can answer the questions. So for each one of us, some of us, most of us are on the straight and narrow, and we're moving forward positively, but there are ones that we will need to pick up and show these different positions, and states, and how you can, see yourself. Now we turn to a story in the 5th chapter of the Gospel of John. This will show you how beautifully the ancient storytellers told of the two distinct outlooks on this world. One, the limited three-dimensional focus, and the other, the 4th-dimensional focus. This story tells of an impotent man who is quickly healed. Jesus comes to a place called Bethsaida, which by definition means the house of 5 porches, not porches, porches. On these 5 porches are unnumbered impotent folk, lame, blind, halt, withered, and others. Tradition had it that at certain seasons of the year, an angel would descend and disturb the pool which was near these 5 porches. As the angel disturbed the pool, the first one was always healed, but only the first one, not the second. Jesus, seeing a man who was lame from his mother's womb, said to him, "Wilt thou be made whole?" That's John 5:6. The impotent man answered him, "Sir, I have no man where the water is troubled to put me into the pool, but while I am coming, another steppeth down before me." John 5:7. Jesus saith unto him, "Rise, take up thy bed and walk." John 5:8. And immediately the man was made whole, and took up his bed and walked, and on the same day was the Sabbath. John 5:9. You read this story and you think some strange man who possessed miraculous power suddenly said to this lame man, "Rise and walk." I cannot repeat too often that the story, even when it introduces numberless individualities, takes place within the mind of the individual man. The pool is your consciousness. The angel is an idea called the messenger of God. Consciousness being God. When you have an idea, you are entertaining an angel. The minute you are conscious of a desire, your pool has been disturbed. Desire disturbs the minds of man. To want something is to be disturbed. Now that Now that's magic, that is, isn't it? Isn't that magic? The thought potentiality, consciousness, again, there are many different ways and newer modern ways. This is a 100-year-old document, just shy of a 100-year-old document. So we have some, and there will be comments and notes and further, parallels to this. The very moment that you have an ambition or a clearly defined objective, the pool has been disturbed by the angel, which was the desire. You are told that the first one into the disturbed pool is always healed. My closest companions in this world, my wife and my little girl, are to me when I address them. Second, I must speak to my wife as you are. I must speak to anyone, no matter how close they are, as you are. And after that, the third person, he is. There is only one person in this world with whom I can use the first person present, and that is self. I am can be said only of myself. It cannot be said of another. Therefore, when I am conscious of some desire that I want to be, but seemingly am not, the pool being disturbed, who can get into that pool before me? I alone possess the power of the first person, because I'm having the thought, you're having the thought. I am that which I want to be, except I believe I am that what I want to be. I remain as I formerly was and die in that limitation. Woo! An Esso, Patrick, this is excellent. What 100-year document are you reading from? You'll need to see part 1, okay? And thank you for that. Thank you for your recent, I'll keep it brief and private, but thank you. You know what I'm thanking you for. You have an email from me, I do believe, my Lord, Master, Brother, Prince, King. This is going to be released later, so I just saw your name pop up, calling screen name, and I thought I'd say Shabba. In this story, you need no man to put you in the pool, as your consciousness is disturbed by desire. All you need to do is assume that you are already that which you formerly wanted to be, and you are in it, and no man can get in it before you. So basically he's saying there's no excuse. Yeah, there's no excuse, and if you do it, it shall be done. What man can get in the pool before you when you become conscious of being that which you want to be? No one can before you when you alone possess the power to say I am. So like we say with the consciousness, and we are man with a person, we are not persons. God is no respecter of persons. So you see how it is all. This is why I thought, oh, this is going to be the sprinkling and the reaffirmation of our current paradigm as a sovereign entity. How would you be sovereign? What is sovereignty? Is Parliament sovereign? Is the Queen sovereign? Or is truth sovereign? Or is in fact consciousness and love and compassion and knowing, and in trust language, trust law, trust talk, you are a conscionable, you are unconscionable. The 3 certainties of trust, and the way that trust, when I say trust now, not legal, not ecclesiastical, but Abrahamic trust, all right? So again, these are the 2 outlooks. You are now what your senses would deny. Are you bold enough to assume that you are already that which you want to be? I am. I've had to do it. I've had to step up, make this channel, do the videos, make presentations, hold seminars, write documents, reach out to channels, go speak, get shot down, make mistakes, be criticized, and continue on. So it is giving up smoking, giving up self-medication, wine o'clock, cannabis, all other pharmaceutical neurotoxins, learning to try to begin to get balance, to get mental clarity, to get the monkey mind. So it is many dimensions for many aspects, and not all of you will need all of that. I needed more work than others. I was an angry, vexated, young spirit, free spirit, that was lost and blind and closed off, to some extent arrogant with regards to preconceptual ideas of who, what, why, where and when. My very first video on this channel, if you ever want to laugh, I think this is the second channel that we've had, because the first one was closed down, that myself and Matthew in Sheffield has created, because it was far too controversial, so we had to start again. And the first video on this channel is quite an angry David, and the first few, not just the first one, the first year, we're into the I don't know, third year roughly of Indy, maybe onto the fourth. So you will see the progression and how the outlooks have changed there. So stop it. No, blessed. We're all blessed. You're blessed for this Saturday attention, for paying attention, love, light, wisdom, your donations, your help, your support, your comments, your sharing. I view myself as God's little BAST, yeah, Bast. I'll leave it as that because it's a family time and I don't know if there's little ones around, but I am God's little, the creator, God, Elohim. Again, we have to, when we say God, Lord, we need to get these words and define them and look at the split titles and the codifications that have given. And we look at all of the, from 8,000 years lineage to get to this point. So we're all blessed, and I'm blessed to have you. And as much as you are for me, in each other's image, and the consciousness, this law, this invisible, they called it string theory some years ago. It's now moved on to quantum mechanics, but the 100th monkey principle is upon us, is all I'll say. So the power of I am, when asked, who shall I say that you are? It was written, I am, therefore, I exist. I think, therefore I am. If you are a human being and not a human doing in certain, aspects of life like that. So you are now what your senses would deny. Are you bold enough to assume that you are already that which you want to be? If you dare assume that you are already that which you reason and your senses now deny, then you are in that pool. And unaided by a man, you too will rise, take your couch and walk. You have to bear in mind there's American language in here, American English, so I'll try and swap it and benefit us all. You are told it happened on the Sabbath. The Sabbath is only the mystical sense of stillness, when you are unconcerned, when you are not anxious, when you are not looking for results, knowing that signs follow and do not precede. So Sunday is day 1 and Saturday is day 7 according to the scriptures. Okay, so we're on day 7 here. Today is my Sabbath. All right, Saturday and the Saturnalia aside, Saturday, the Sabbath, is the day of stillness now, compared this author's writings. All right, again from wherein there is no working, where you are not working to make it so you are in the Sabbath, when you are not at all concerned about the opinion of others. Trills. Bosh. You are us. We show love. When you walk as though you were, you cannot raise one finger to make it so. You are in the Sabbath. I cannot be concerned as to how it will be and still say I am conscious of being it. If I am conscious of being free, secure, healthy, happy, sovereign, I added that. I sustain these states of consciousness without effort or labor on my part. Therefore, I am in the Sabbath. And because it was the Sabbath, he rose and walked. Now we're going on to a next little chapter, page 48 of 96. This next story is from the 4th chapter of the Gospel of John. And it is one you have heard time and time again, or may have heard, most likely will have heard time and time again. Jesus comes to the well. There is a woman called the woman of Samaria. And he said to her, give me to drink. John 4:7. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, how is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. John 4:9. Jesus answered and said unto her, if thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that saith to thee, give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. John 4:10. The woman, seeing that he has nothing to do which to draw the water, and knowing the well is deep, says, art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? John 4:12. Jesus answered and said unto her, whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again, But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. Now then, hey? But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. John 4:13 and 14 continued. Then he tells her all concerning herself, and asked her to go and call her husband. She answered and said, I have no husband. John 4:17. Jesus saith unto her, Thou hast well said, I have no husband, for thou hast 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. John 4:17 to 18. The woman, knowing this to be true, goes into the marketplace and tells the other, I have met the Messiah. They ask her, How do you know you have met the Messiah? Because he told me all things that I have ever done. She replies, here is a focus that takes in the entire past and at least tells her now concerning the future. Continuing with the story, the disciples come to Jesus and say, Master, eat. John 4:31. But he say unto them, I have meat to eat that ye know not of. John 4:32. When they speak of a harvest in 4 months, Jesus replies, Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Before I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white, already to harvest. John 4:35. He sees things that all people wait 4 months for or wait 4 years for. He sees them as now in a dimensionally larger world, as if existing now, taking place now. So let us go back to the first part of the story. The woman of Samaria is the 3-dimensional you, and Jesus at the well is the 4th-dimensional you. The argument starts between what you want to be and what reason tells you that you are. The greater you tells you that if you would dare assume you are already what you want to be, that you would become it. The lesser you, with its limited focus, tells you why you haven't a bucket, you haven't a rope, and the well is too deep. There's no point trying, it's a bit too hard. I can't learn law, Dave. I'm dyslexic, I'm X, Y, and Z. I need you to do it for me, you know. So again, I'm of that position. I'm speaking for myself when I say that, and it's extremely hard for me. You can make excuses, or you can knuckle down, grin and bear it. Today, I and brother Roger have changed some rear springs on the horsey. I've had a bit of a bad couple of weeks, and I've had a limp horse, and we've had to overcome some obstacles, seized rusty bolts on a 15-year-old iron horsey, and change both of the rear springs. We did it in 1 hour and 15 minutes. The book time for a mechanic is 1 hour. We had complications, and because the spring had collapsed and the wheel was ultra low, we couldn't get a jack under the sill to lift it up to repair it. We had to find a workaround. We didn't have a rope, we didn't have a bucket, and we was on a wing and a prayer, but we had faith and we overcome it. How long did it take? 15 minutes longer than if a real mechanic at a proper garage had done it. But as myself and Roger aiding me there, I aiding Roger, we overcome it with only 15 minutes extra time. So again, that's just you know, it's how you would say that, and how you would view certain things. There's no point trying. Homer Simpson quote from when I used to watch Simpsons back in the day that did amuse me, when Homer is quoted saying, trying, Lisa, is the first step towards failure. Now that's wrong. That's very wrong. You should never have anything like that. Even though we laugh at it, the subconscious takes it in and doesn't know the difference, you know. So you may answer and say, if you only knew who asks of you to drink, you would ask of him. If you only knew what in yourself is urging upon you the embodiment of the state you now seek, you would suspend your little sight and let him do it for you. Then he tells you that you have 5 husbands and you deny it, but he knows far better than you that of your 5 senses impregnate you morning, noon and night with their limitations. They tell you what children you will bear tonight, tomorrow and the days to come. Your 5 senses act like 5 husbands who constantly impregnate your consciousness, which is the great womb of God. And morning, noon and night, they suggest to you and dictate to you that which you must accept as true. There are actually more than 5 senses, but for the purpose of this, we'll let that stay. He tells you the one you would like to have for your husband is not your husband. In other words, the sixth has not yet impregnated you. What you would like to be is defined by these 5, and they hold the power. They dictate what you will accept as true. What would you like to accept? What you would like to accept has not yet penetrated your mind and impregnated your mind with its reality. He whom you call your husband is really not your husband. You are not bearing his likeness. To bear his likeness is proof that you are his wife. At least you have known him intimately. You are not bearing the likeness of the 6. You are only bearing the likeness of the 5. Then one turns to me and tells me all that I have ever known. I go back in my mind's eye, and reason tells me that all through my life I have always accepted the limitations of my senses. I have always looked upon them as fact, and morning, noon, and night I have bore witness to this acceptance. Reason tells me I have only known these 5 from the time I was born. Now I would like to step outside of the limitation of my senses. But I have not yet found within myself the courage to assume I am what these 5 would deny that I am. So here I remain, conscious of my task, but without the courage to step beyond the limitations of my senses and that which my reason denies. He tells these, I have meat ye not know of, or I have meat ye not of. I have meat ye know not of. I am the bread that droppeth down from heaven. I am the wine. I know what I want to be, and because I am that bread, I will feast upon it. Just let that sink in, all right? I know if you're hungry and you need food, you can't eat yourself. We're not promoting any kind of cannibalism here. I assume that I am, and instead of feasting upon the fact that I am in this room talking to you and you are listening to me, and that I am in, the studio here, or as the author has written, Los Angeles, I feast upon the fact that I am elsewhere, and I walk here as though I were elsewhere, and gradually I become what I feast upon. What's that? You are what you eat. Indeed you are. And eating metaphysically. This is metaphysical, not so much the physical, act of deed of eating there. Let me give you 2 personal stories. Now, this is the author, not me. And this document is from the 1930s. I found it in my archives whilst looking through and transferring data about in the region of 2 terabytes of data. And some of my PDFs and the documents that I upload into our private, trust and foundation educational trust there. I'm checking what we're missing and what may be of a benefit in addition to the nigh on 400 documents and instruments that we have in our literature library and resource vault. So I don't know the author and I don't know the name. I'm not claiming it to be my work, and if anybody can tell me the author, the title, or believes that it may be one of their relatives' authorships, penmanships or works, I'd be very interested to know, and at the earliest opportunity we will give full accreditation and pay thanks and homage to you all and the lineage that has brought this. There are certain clues in this with the videos, and what you're listening to, and hopefully we'll find out who this is. Manna, yes, Manna Man's gone on the manna, yes, So the author now is going to, through me, give you 2 personal stories. Oh wow, it's thirsty work. When I was a boy, I used to bonkai weed in a Rizla. It starts off when I was a boy. Nothing to do with Cali weed though. But when I was a boy, I lived in a very limited environment on a little island called Barbados. So it's a male, it's not a female. They mentioned dancing earlier, Broadway, Los Angeles, boats, 1930s. So this is one of the best stories I have ever read, and I didn't know I had it. I've had it a long time. It's about time it resurfaced, and by the spirit of the male author that wrote this, may we all be blessed for knowing its contents. So a little island of Barbados. Feed for animals was very, very scarce, and it was very expensive because it had to be imported. I am one of a family of 10 children, and my grandmother lived with us, making 13 at the table. Time and again, I can remember my mother saying to the cook in the early part of the week, I want you to put away 3 ducks for Sunday's dinner. This meant that she would take from the flock in the yard 3 ducks. 3 ducks for Sunday's dinner. It's a big fam. How big were the ducks? Yes, I know. And coop them up in a very small cage and feed them. Stuff them morning, noon and night with corn and all the things she wanted the ducks to feast upon. This was an entirely different diet from what they regularly fed the ducks. Because we kept those birds alive by feeding them fish, we kept them alive on fat on fish, because fish were very cheap and plentiful. You could not eat a bird that fed upon fish, not as you and I like the taste of a bird. Sorry vegetarians, the cook would take 3 ducks, put them in a cage, and for 7 days stuff them with corn, sour milk, and all the things we wanted to taste in the birds. Then, when they were killed and served for dinner 7 days later, they were luscious, milk-fed, corn-fed birds. But occasionally, the cook forgot to put away the birds, and my father, knowing we were having ducks and believing that she had carried out the command, did not send anything else for dinner, and 3 fish came to the table. Fish tasting poultry. You could not touch these birds, for they were so much the embodiment of what they fed upon. That's a good, excellent, reference of sorts. Man is a psychological being, a thinker. It is not what he feeds upon physically, but what he feeds upon mentally that they shall become. We become the embodiment of that which we mentally feed upon. As I said earlier, you are generally the embodiment of the 5 your 5 friends, family members, whoever it is, 5 consciousnesses that you frequent around. You will take on, and they will be the product of that, the embodiment of. Now those ducks could not, and what you watch, the media and the rubbish, the soap operas and the dialogue that comes out of the one-eyed god known as television, so etc. So now those ducks could not be fed corn in the morning and fish in the afternoon and something else at night. It had to be a complete change of diet. In our case, we cannot have a little bit of meditation in the morning, curse at noon, and do something else in the evening. We have to go on a mental diet. For a week, we must completely change our mental food whatsoever. So when we say, Kevin and I and the Trust and Indy, me, David, that we're going to look at counselling, mental health and depression, suicide, anxiety, yeah, we're not just saying it because, we're looking at doing it because we think we can. We actually have got some positive mental paradigms and works and publications and that we found that would beat CBT. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are good rapport. If there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. Phil 4.8. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If I could now single out the kind of mental food I want to express within my world and feast upon, I would become it. Inwardly project, outwardly attract. If you're always negative, angry, and I appreciate for some that are in the grips of depression, suicidal thoughts and tendencies, despair, misery, pestilence, sorrow. I have said on this channel, it is the last year and we are moving out and going to the land of milk and honey. So this is what we are saying here. The food, we're going to change your food. We're going to get you to, within a week, you should be able to feel a little bit better, a little bit stronger, a little bit positive. And with the inclusion of the studies of the Hermetica, when I say to you, and I have said to you, it began in the Hermetica. That's a little bit of a Chemical Beats It Began in Africa soundtrack that I like, that Chemical Brothers Electronica dance. That's why I say the Hermetica, the Corpus Hermetica. Some of you have gone out on Amazon and you've purchased a Corpus Hermetica copy, and you've purchased the Hymns of Hermes, the Lament of Hermes. You're going to archive.org and other archive places, and you're looking at PDFs. Helena Blavatsky, you know, and the inclusions of great alchemists, such as the late, great, most recent one, I believe it was Sir Isaac Newton, Aleister Crowley, Manly P. Hall, Lovecraft, Aldous Huxley, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, in no order and no preference, and neither are they one and another associated with, but and there's more to come. So we're going to this year move forward, change many things. Crucifixion, you will self-crucify in a different way. You will put to bed, and you will bring forward, and you will change again. And that's for Judaism. This is for Islam. This is for Christianity, Buddhism, Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus, all of the family. This is a natural science. The bodies are all the same, no matter your position, your country, your landmass, the deity, the God, the prophet, etc. The house that you go into, we're going to have one house. All right, it's going to begin with my house, and you're coming into my house, and you're going to tell others about the house, and the house is going to expand, just like house music. In the beginning, there was Jack, and Jack had a groove. He had a groove of all grooves, you know. That tune is legendary and iconic. I'll just stop there. So all are invited, all are welcome. You may be black, you may be Jew, you may be Gentile, you know, you may be white. It depends, but all are welcome without offense. And great things are going to happen moving forward as of these videos and outlays and publications. It does start with knowing who you are. Santos, know thyself. The Vatican owns thy soul. This is on the back of that, and paying homage to, with respect to Brother Santos. And maybe I will try to get a podcast hang out with him lined up, and just give him in a nutshell, and let him come and put on with the inclusions of the toroidal. You know, we've got the flat earth movement, we've got the globe earth movement, we've got holographic pixelated movement, we've got the toroidal, magneto, electro, red and blue spectrum, Norb's universal theory, the passing of the 21st of December, you know, 2020, the 21st of the 12/20. That wasn't a false start. That wasn't something that you know, the Aztec, the Mayans, the Incas, the calendars. We've been and done it, you know, so we're going to change for the better, and we're involving all, and we're going to reconnect the lost tribes. And we'll say God's chosen people. Well, if this author is putting it how it is, grantor of dominion, Lord God, Yahweh, Yeshua, Tetragrammaton, Most High, Creator, what? Jesus, Messiah, Lord, Savior, again, and bringing it in, and separation of, you will see with clarity. It is confusing, it is deep, but done in the right way, with love and respect, as a family together, and with these publications, in addition to the publications we've given you for free, we, this channel, Indy, David, I, and through our Foundation Educational Trust, and through our the Sovereign Masters Guild, and the key competence that I've given you, you will become stronger, better, faster, and your life will change. Hermeticism overpinning that, and I'm very excited for what could be. So hearts, minds, ments, and such other, you know, paradigms are going to change rapidly and fast, and we're happy to be part. This is part of our Christian disclosure. And there is no coinage of Christian disclosure on DuckDuck, on Pooble, or on the net. I have coined this Christian disclosure movement through this channel, Indy Glow, chakra points, Indy, you know, and where the indigo, what colours are where, and through our trust, SPLS Pro. Discovering law and going into legal land to find lawful remedy has led us to this path. It wasn't intentional, it was completely by accident. You know, as a DJ, I used to say on the mic there, don't stray from the path, because the jungle is massive. When I was DJing beats and breaks and bass lines, you stray from the path, you get lost. You know, much like in America, you could walk down a street in Las Vegas and there may be 100 churches there, they'll all want to take donations and usher you into their house and claim to save your soul. But you come out of one church, go across the road to another, and that same house will say, we are the true house of God. We will take the donation and we will save your soul. What? There is only one true faith. Well, we found the one true faith, and it isn't any of those faiths and religions that are out there asking you for donations and to go into their house to save your soul, because a church can't save your soul. A church, a kirk, built what for? To house what? The suffering. What suffering? That's to endure, to allow. You will not endure and you will not allow, because you will learn to pray. You will pray with a strong positive vibration, a good outlook. You will not be weak and humble and upon your knees and crying and desperate. It will work the way that successfully, the way that you will not be asking for forgiveness. You will not be asking for, and you will not need to donate to these I don't know what to call them, charlatans. I'm not saying that any of them are wrong. It's just our discovery and the embodiment of what we found here, okay, and the mental alchemy that we are performing now. And by changing the mindset, you will then change the body, as I've put with Dr. Masaru Emoto, and the other publications on this channel, the videos and the readings that I've done, the proof readings, and also on my community page of Indie, you will find some Egyptian type studies, order, chaos. In the beginning, there was the nun, Apep, Atun, Akhenaten, and how that lineage has gone. So generally, it's the same story, recycled time, eons and eons and eons, and changed by whoever was at the helm controlling it. So there is praise to be given, and the mental diet is now changing. So whatever you think in your heart happens to be, in your life, inwardly, outwardly. And we have great many other men's and mans to thank, So now we're going to go back to the document. Let me tell you why I am doing what I am doing today. It was back in 1933, but for us in 2021, it was way back, nearly 100 years. In 1933, in the city of New York, and the author's old friend here, Abdullah, whom I studied Hebrew with for 5 years, who was really the beginning of the eating of all my superstitions. When I went to Abdullah, I was filled with superstitions. I could not eat meat. I could not eat fish. I could not eat chicken. I could not eat any of the things that were living in the world. I did not drink. I did not smoke. I was making a tremendous effort to live a celibate life. Abdullah said to me, I am not going to tell you, you are crazy, Neville. His name is Neville, the author of this document, Neville. But you are, and his friend's Abdullah. We're getting closer as we get to the end. All these things are stupid, but I could not believe they were stupid. In November 1933, I bade goodbye to my parents in the city of New York as they sailed for Barbados. I had been in this country 12 years with no desire to see Barbados. I was not successful, and I was ashamed to go home to successful members of my family. After 12 years in America, I was a failure in my own eyes. I was in the theatre and made money 1 year and spent it the next month. I was not what I would call by their standards, nor by mine, a successful person. Mind you, when I say goodbye to my parents in November, I had no desire to go to Barbados. The ship pulled out, and as I came up the street, something possessed me with a desire to go to Barbados. It was the year 1933. I was unemployed, had no place to go, except a little room on 75th Street. I went straight to my old friend Abdullah and said to him, the strangest feeling is possessing me. For the first time in 12 years, I want to go to Barbados. If you want to go, Neville, you have gone, he replied. That was very strange language to me. I am in New York City on 72nd Street. He tells me I have gone to Barbados. I said to him, what do you mean, I have gone, Abdullah? He said, do you really want to go? I answered yes. He then said to me, as you walk through this door, now you are not walking on 72nd Street, you are walking on palm-lined streets, coconut-lined streets. This is Barbados. Do not ask me how you're going to go. You are in Barbados. You do not say how when you are there. You are there. Now you walk as though you were there. I went out of his place in a daze. I am in Barbados. I have no money. I have no job. I am not Abdullah. 2 weeks later, I was no nearer my goal than on the first day. I told him I wanted to go to Barbados. I said to him, Ab, I trust you implicitly, but here is one time I cannot see how it's going to work. I have not one penny towards my journey. I began to explain. Penny. I thought there were cents in America, in Barbados. He's written penny. You know what he did, my old friend Abdullah, with his turbaned head? As I sat in his living room, he rose from his chair and went towards his study and slammed the door, which is not an invitation to follow him. As he went through the door, he said to me, I have said all that I have to say. On the 3rd of December, I stood before Abdullah and told him again I was no nearer to my trip. He repeated his statement, you are in Barbados. The very last ship sailing for Barbados that would take me there for the reason I wanted to go, which was to be there for Christmas, sailed at noon on December the 6th. The ship was called the Old Nerissa. On the morning of December the 4th, having no job, having no place to go, I slept late. When I got up, there was an airmail letter from Barbados under my door. As I opened the letter, a little piece of paper flickered to the floor. I picked it up, and it was a draft for $50. A draft for $50, eh? The letter was from my brother Victor, and it read, I am not asking you to come, Neville. This is a command. We have never had a Christmas when all the members of our family were present at the same time. This Christmas, it could be done if you would come. My oldest brother, Cecil, left home before the youngest was born, and then we started to move away from home at different times, so never in the history of our family were we all together at the same time. The letter continued, you are not working. I know there is no reason why you cannot come, so you must be here before Christmas. The enclosed $50 is to buy a few shirts or a pair of shoes you may need for the trip. You will not need tips. Use the bar if you are drinking. I will meet the ship and pay all your tips and your incurred expenses. I have cabled Furnace, Withy and Co. in New York City and told them to issue you a ticket. I have cabled before the internet, look. I've sent it down the wired it. And they will issue you a ticket when you appear at their office. The $50 is simply to buy some little essentials you may sign as you want aboard the ship. I will meet it and take care of all the obligations. So I went down to Furnace, Withy and Co. with my letter and let them read it. They said, we received the cable, Mr. Goddard. But unfortunately, we have not any space left on the December the 6th sailing. The only thing available is third class between New York and St. Thomas. When we get to St. Thomas, we have a few passengers who are getting off. You may then ride first class from St. Thomas to Barbados. But between New York and St. Thomas, you must go third class, although you may have the privilege of first class, dining and walk the decks as the first class. I said, I will take it. I went back to my friend Abdullah on the afternoon of December the 4th and said, it worked like a dream. I told him what I had done, thinking he would be happy. Do you know what he said to me? He said, who told you that you are going third class? Did I see you in Barbados? The man you are going third class. You are in Barbados and you went there first class. I did not have one moment to see him again before I sailed on the noon of December the 6th. When I reached the dock with my passport and my papers to get aboard the ship, the agent said to me, we have good news for you, Mr. Goddard. So it's Neville Goddard, the author. Boom, who this is. All right. What? Manifestation Techniques, a Cosmic Principle by Neville Goddard. Gangsters and... who's that? Anesso for the hint. We found it then, have we? Here we go. I didn't claim it, and I didn't know what's going on. So God, I'd known to some, unbeknown to me, and many up until the 4th hour and the 19th minute. And if I was unconscionable, I would have pre-programmed and taken all this out and said, but we need to take time to pay homage and love, and by doing this, the universe pays back. Now, back to the significance of our 2 Bible stories. The well is deep, and you have no bucket, you have no rope. It is 4 months to the harvest, and Jesus says, I have meat to eat ye know not of. I am the bread of heaven. Feast on the idea. Become identified with the idea as though you are already that embodied state. Walk in the assumption that you are what you want to be. If you feast on that and remain faithful to that mental diet, you will crystallize it. You will become it in this world. When I came back to New York in 1934, after 3 heavenly months in Barbados, I drank, I smoked, I did everything I had not done in years. I remember what Abdullah had said to me: after you have proven this law, you will become normal. You will come out of that graveyard. You will come out of the dead past where you think you are being holy, for you are really doing, you are being so good, Neville. You are good for nothing. I had something I wanted to say there. Come out of the past being... we have to suffer in this life, don't we? Well, apparently we have to suffer and allow torment and negativity and excess self-crucifixion, because in the next life we're going to live in paradise and heaven and it's all going to be lovely. But I don't believe that we do have to suffer and live in the dead, being in the dead, thinking that we're holy. I believe that that's the wrong teachings. I don't believe that anybody should suffer. Animals, plants, all of it. No life should suffer in this life on the premise that we can have a better life when we are not here. We are here once, we are here now, and what we do now, I appreciate it's not good. I appreciate it's not easy, especially with the COVID and the virus and the WHO and the 4th Industrial Revolution and the multi-billionaire tycoons that are rattling around. And, I appreciate that, but it's still... we're not at a war. We haven't got bombs dropping on us. We haven't just come out of a war. We're not in a war-torn country. I'm speaking of Britain and where I am, and for the great many of those in the Western developed world. So, that's something, a paradigm to think about there. So I came back walking this earth a completely transformed person. From that day, which was February 1934, I began to live more and more. I cannot honestly tell you I have always succeeded. My many mistakes in this world, my many failures would convict me if I told you that I have so completely mastered the movements of my attention that I can at all times remain faithful to the idea I want to embody. I can echo that, and so can a great many of you. I can say with the ancient teacher, although I have seemed to have failed in the past, I move on and strive day after day to become that which I want to embody in this world. Suspend judgment. Refuse to accept what reason and the senses now dictate. And if you remain faithful to the new diet, this diet, you shall become the embodiment of the ideal to which ye remain faithful. It says you, but so I'm getting in the moment now. If there is one place in the world that is unlike my little island of Barbados, it is New York City. A knife, a fork, a bottle and a cork. That's the way man runs in New York. In Barbados, the tallest building is 3 stories, and the streets are lined with palm trees and coconut trees and all sorts of tropical things. In New York City, you must go to a park to find a tree. Yet I had to walk the streets of New York as though I walked the streets of Barbados. To one's imagination, all things are possible. I walked feeling that I was actually walking in the streets of Barbados, and in that assumption I could almost smell the odour of the coconut-lined lanes. I began to create within my mind's eye the atmosphere I would physically encounter were I in Barbados. As I remained faithful to this assumption, somebody cancelled passage and I received it. He was on about the classes, 1st and 3rd. My brother in Barbados, who never thought of my coming home, has the commanding urge to write me a strange letter. He had never dictated to me, but this time he dictated, commanded, and thought that he had originated the idea of my visit. Argumentatively, he did. He helped out, but you'd argue that would be the quantum consciousness connection, like when you haven't seen anybody for a long time and you think of them, or you mention the name and that name is the same name as them and they live thousands of miles away. You haven't spoken for ages, and just the basic premise of having their name float in your consciousness, then a few hours, minutes, maybe hours, days, generally a week, or not so much months, but if it's been 10 years, then months isn't a long time compared to 10 years. They will get in touch and you'll be like, oh, isn't it funny? Or email or whatever, communicational, form you're using, and you will say, I was only thinking of you the other day. And here you are out the blue. So we've all, relevant, to keep it relevant for those that are struggling to find the tedious links of reality with this story and the works of Neville. So I went home and had 3 heavenly months, returned first class, and brought back quite a sum of cash in my pocket. A gift, my trip. Had I paid for it, would have been $3,000. Yet I did it without a nickel in my pocket. I have ways ye know not of. My ways are past finding out. The dimensionally greater self, my assumption as the command and influence the behavior of my brother to write that letter. Higher self perhaps as well, to keep it, spiritual. Influenced the behavior of someone to cancel that first class passage, and did all the things necessary, moving heaven and earth, that would tend toward the production of the idea with which I was identified. I was identified with the feeling of being there. I slept as though I were there, and the entire behavior of man was molded in harmony with my assumption. I did not need to go down to Furness, Withy and Co. and beg them for passage, asking them to cancel someone who was booked first class. I did not need to write my brother and beg him send me more money or buy me a passage. He thought he originated the act. Actually, to this day, he believes that he initiated the desire to bring me home. My old friend Abdullah simply said to me, you are in Barbados, Neville. You want to be there, wherever you want to be, you are there. Live as though you are, and that you shall be. These are the 2 outlooks on the world possessed by every man. I do not care who you are. Every child born of womb man, regardless of race, nation or creed, possesses 2 distinct outlooks on the world. You are either the natural man who receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, because to you in the natural focus they are foolishness unto you, or you are the spiritual man who perceiveth things outside of the limitations of your senses, because all things are now realities in a dimensionally larger world. There is no need to wait 4 months to harvest. Now that's a beautiful circling back upon where I started from, is it not? You are either the woman of Samaria or Jesus at the well. You are the man waiting on the 5 porches for the disturbance and someone to push him in, or you are the one who can command yourself to rise and walk in spite of others who wait. Now that shall be reiterated again when we're looking at mental health, cognitive behavioral therapy, and alternatives into how to get out of this this state of disarray that we all find ourselves in one way or another. This last 12 months has affected each and every one of our consciousnesses and our physical beings in many ways. So not much like the separation of the person from man, the human. And when we're doing this, you see how we can, and I, this channel, when I say I, David, via Indie and SPLS Pro with our family, we are going to do this in the private and perfect it. We've got some sisters, thankfully some Omegas have come and taken the challenge and said we want to help. We have neuro-linguistic programming, we have psychological programming, experiencing, and we're going to utilize our private resources, and we're going to bust back out in the public with other channels. Brother Rob from the observation deck, Sean from Life in the Mix. Is it Sean? I'm not sure. I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, but I'm aware, and I've skimmed, and you've posted and you've shared, and I've taken note. I think it might be Sean. So Life in the Mix has said hello. I'm going to have an offline chat with him. We've got Robert, the observation deck, and all his scribes, and that's a big channel. It's bigger than this humble little city. America, the continuity, I did that not by purpose. Greg said to me, G-Star, perhaps you could find something, David, to use as a backdrop to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. I went, like what? He said, like those nylon bed sheets that you can get that have nice pictures on. I went, hang on a minute, we have but one nylon bed sheet, and if this is New York City, then it's just the way that things happen. So we're going to come back out, and we're going to get the mental state sorted. We're going to give you some food to feed on that all can feed on, and it's going to be a big year. Last year was massive. This is going to be bigger. Ooh, what hecky thump! All right, and two Yorkshiremen like Indy and Life in the Mix is going to be proper bow, that one, I tell thee. Thank you to Life in the Mix. Thank you to all that have commented and said. I did ask a question to the channel supporters. You didn't all see this in the public. I privately wrote to the channel supporters, we're members of Indie. I said, what content do you want? What topics do you want me to make? What would you like to see? How can I repay your kindness for supporting this channel? One of the answers that come back was, get yourself on a podcast with I think it's Sean, is it, from Life in the Mix? And that would be great to see. So I acted upon what their request was, and we've made it so. So proper bow, I tell thee. Hey. So are you the man behind the tombstones in the cemetery, waiting and begging not to be clean because you do not want to be cleansed of your prejudices? One of the most difficult things for man to give up is his superstitions, his prejudices. He holds on to these as though they were the treasure of treasures. When you do become cleansed and you are free, then the womb, your own mind, is automatically healed. It becomes the prepared ground where it seeds your desires. It can take root and grow into manifestation, planting the seeds, all right, seeds of the mind. The child you now bear is in your heart, is in your present objective. Your present longing is a child that is as though it were sick. Your present, all right. If you assume you are now what you'd like to be, the child for a moment becomes dead because there is no disturbance anymore. You cannot be disturbed when you feel you are what you want to be, because if you feel you are what you wanted to be, you are satisfied in that assumption. And I'd like to see what Santos's outlook and a chat with and premiering that. If we can get some funds and together, I will look at the open broadcasting software, a new laptop, and we'll start to get back to the old format and scenario where we do this live, and we have like the hangouts where with Sun and Moon Santos previously and other guests, Claudio, there's too many to mention, Flat Earth Dude and the beer guy, and there were good times there. FPV Angel I'd like to chat to about certain things and bring it all and correlate it and have like a master panel of consciousnesses, some of the channels that you and I frequent and know, and some of the ones that have taught us and brought us to this point. Without the works and previous works and foundational outlays of other channels and minds and consciousnesses, such as what we've named, then we wouldn't be able to be here now. It's a continuous improvement. So the open broadcasting software, along with new hardware and the pathway that we've got, I would like to see at the middle to the end of this year, the privilege of having a panel of, we can have up to 100, to be fair, on certain, we wouldn't have 100, but we can have some guests, some VIP guests can come along. If you want to speak to us and be included in that, we might be able to arrange that. If you'd like to partake in it, if you've got something to offer, if you've got something positive to bring to the table, then you can come join us. So there's many big things about to be happening for you and I. All right, so not just one. Stephen, gosh, not just one ego, not just one consciousness, not just one channel, even though there is kind of one consciousness and there is a channel called one consciousness. We will do this for you, for ourselves, for our unborn lineage, for the little ones, for the bloods, all right? And I've got lots more to bring, but now is not the time. To others who judge superficially, you seem to no longer desire. So to them, the damsel or damsel, the desire or damsel is dead. They think you have lost your ambition because you no longer discuss your secret ambition. You have completely adjusted yourself to the idea. You have assumed that you are what you want to be. You know she is not dead, but in fact, she is sleepeth. I go to awaken her. I will walk in the assumption that I am, and as I walk, I quietly awaken her. Then when she awakens, I will do the normal, natural thing. I will give her to eat. I will not brag about it and tell others. I simply go and tell no man. I feed this state. I now light with my attention. I keep it alive within my world by becoming attentive to it. So when I tell you, and I have said, that the Bible is not so much a historical depiction of a factual events of historical, events and reality, there is a layering of stories. And when others have told me in the beginning, I went, yes. When I was little, I didn't really understand how Adam and Eve could have started the whole world, and brother and sister, having sex and fornicating and moving on, and what we've come to learn in epigenetics and genetics in itself, and epidemiology, and what we're finding out now, and the blood, life in the blood. It was hard. It didn't make sense. So the Bible gets disregarded because you just think, pish. To some extent, sorry, to quote my northern Scottish friends, it's one of man says pish to me quite a lot. And that's when we've lost the path. We've strayed from the path and we've gone into the massive jungle. So this translation and works of, and with the articulations of, you can now see that the Bible is the world's greatest story for more than one reason. The literalists, there's no need to be offended because we've all been lost. We've all, been in a battle, and we'd like to get out of it, and we'd like to bring as many out of it as we can. The system will not be brought down. There is a pathway out. The scene in Life of Brian, where they're carrying the cross, and the guy at the entrance to the start of crucifixion, he's saying crucifixion, and they all say yes. And then at one point, one of the characters of the Life of Brian, he says crucifixion, and for a joke, the man says, no, actually, freedom. And he says, oh, freedom, is it? Okay, then, that's this way. Happens to be to the left. And he says, only joking, crucifixion. And off he goes on his way to crucify himself. There are many, many types of things which now echo back to me, which make me go, But you must release the anger, release the torment. We've all been hoodwinked. Nobody's one up above another, and it's time to make up for lost time, all right? And I'm happy, honoured, privileged to bring this to you, and where we've got videos such as iconic speakers and brothers such as Santos of the Bonacci clan saying, back in the day, he is, a good 10 to 15, maybe, I don't know how old that video is, the Vatican owns your soul. Without doing anything, and without going in oneself, and without going on the journey, discovery, and putting in the time and effort and paying attention to get the wisdom back, then they will, by default, own your soul. But if you follow this video, I appreciate we're now on hour 4 hours and 38 minutes. It's a lot of work. You will find your soul, your spirit, your consciousness will realign. You'll get the alignment of, and you can start manifesting your own future. All right. So as I've said, I can only say that much. All right. We're getting off the cross, and we need to burn the wood. I said Sister Lisa. I think it just flashed up there. Right. Back to it. Page 56 of 96. 40 pages left. Bosh. Eh? Bish, bash, bosh. That's how we do it. Things that I am not attentive to fade and wither like a limp lettuce leaf within your world, my world. regardless of what they are. They are not just born and then remain unfed. I gave them birth by reason of the fact that I become conscious of being them. When I embody them now with my world, that is not the end. That is the beginning. Now I am a mother who must keep alive this state by being attentive to it. The day that I am not attentive, I have withdrawn my milk from it, and it fades away from my world as I become attentive to something else in my world. So where Pazio is said, that's a name I needed to drop back in for those that haven't seen part 1. Perhaps you need to go and stop, go to the channel and look for Does the Vatican Own Your Soul? Part 1, SPLS Pro, Indie, Christian Disclosure. You need to do a moral act, and you need to commit to that moral act. Not for anybody else, not for me, not for your brother, not for your wife, not for your girlfriend, not for your family, but for yourself. And you can then stay on that path, and you keep feeding it. And as the hermeticism and the principles of hermeticism, because that's one true thing that I've found for me to be true and works, and the actual power of prayer, what prayer is, how it brings in, you can get onto this, and it will work for everybody. It's a given. It's something that is set in stone, much like the Georgia Guidestones, set in stone, much like Mount Rushmore with the heads on, set in stone. And we will look to give such families like Palestine an identity back, and others, the Indians on the reservations and what's happened there, yourselves, Western, Eastern. We need to correct. I'm not saying this to offend anybody or to, but you will have to do it for yourself. There's so much we can give and prepare you for and lead the way up to, but then you have to then start, like we say, horse and water. You're going to have to start feeding the self. And if you stop and you waver and you pause, that's fine, as long as you intend to go back. But you must not stop altogether and deviate from the subject matter at hand. So you can be either be attentive to the limitations and feed these and make them mountains, or you can be attentive to your, I don't like this word, but it's written, desires. And to become attentive, you must assume that you are ready that which you want to be, the secret, positive mental attitude. Although today we speak of a third dimensional and a fourth dimensional focus, do not think for one moment these ancient teachers were not fully conscious of these two distinct centers of thought within the minds of all men. Yes, they personified these two, and they tried to show man that the only thing which robs him of the man he could be is habit. Although it is not law, every psychologist will tell you that habit is the most inhibiting force in the world. It completely restricts man and binds him and makes him totally blind to what otherwise he should be. If you're a smoker, like I have been for a good 25 years of my life, and you find it incredibly hard to give up, and you'd start with something like that, breaking a habit. Okay, the only positive, easy advice I can give to you is limit, like my mum has stopped drinking wine, and she's drunk 2 bottles of wine every day for 10 years, red wine, and she's not had any ill health. She doesn't classify herself as an alcoholic, just a social drink. But as I've come off the tobacco and off the e-cigs, off the self-medication, off the Sheba, we'll say, and calming down, I've given up habits and I've broken habits, and the universe will need to see you break something like this, because you can't lie to yourself, because you know the truth, and you can't lie to the universal consciousness of which you're effectively in a court. You're in a court every day of your life, and you're being judged by your higher self within, your higher self connected. So you would have to look at trying to, if it's language, cussweed. I'm not saying that cuss weed, sorry, lady legs, Frida weed, cuss words, the way that you speak, the way that if you don't love yourself, that's a habit, that you're angry with yourself. You don't give yourself enough time. You don't give yourself enough credence, credit. You don't, there's lots of areas in life that are simple, small, personal, private, sensitive ones that I can't mention, that you will know of. So name something like January the 1st. Oh, what I'm going to do for my New Year's resolution. And then most of us, 90%, after joining that gym, don't keep up the gym. So you need to, yes, Lady Legs, new scribe, nice screen name. You've got to free yourself. Only yourself can free your mind from mental slavery. Don't let them fool you or even try to school you. All right. Sponsored by Bob, Robert, Nesta, Marley. So try to quit something, try to give up. And when you've done that, try for something else and move on like that and keep at it and know there will be rewards. It is different. It's hard. It's stressful. But after a bit, it will become normal. And that habit will be a distant memory. And then we can, once we're back and balanced and healthy and you've had a period, you can take things in moderation. My mum and I will maybe have a smoke again. Well, a drink she will drink and I maybe will have a smoke. And I can say no to it after time, like I can now. Tobacco and the good cannabis there. It's a plan. It's far worse than, it's not, alcohol is far worse than cannabis. So I know in England, Britain, we like a smoke. It was Noel Gallagher that said some time ago when being interviewed, it's the English way of life to sit down, have a brew and a spliff. But if we can just recognize our stigmatisms, recognize our habits, recognize the wine o'clock, the beer o'clock, and the tolerance that we get to it, and then how it gets a grip on us, and habits, sugar, processed food, meat, swearing, just passing through. Thank you for passing through. That's where it starts. And then later on, once you've got the discipline and the strength, the world is your oyster. Nothing will be using you again, and you will be able to use it. So begin now mentally to see and feel yourself as to that which you want to be, and feast upon that sensation morning, noon and night. I have scoured the Bible for a time interval that is longer than 3 days, and I have not found it. Jesus answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. John 2:19. Prepare your victuals, for within 3 days ye shall pass over this Jordan, to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God giveth you to possess it. Joshua 1:1. There's my 111. When I saw that, I went J111, land 3 days, pass over this Jordan, go in, possess the land, biological land as well, land territory, which the Lord God, granter of dominion, gaveth you to possess it. Joshua chapter 1, verse 11. So there's my 111. I was like, they just won't leave me alone. They continue to present themselves in profound ways, of which I correlate to. If I could completely saturate my mind with one sensation and walk as though if it were already a fact, I am promised, and I cannot find any denial of it in this great book, that I do not need more than a 3-day diet if I remain faithful to it. But I must be honest about it. If I change my diet in the course of the day, I extend the time interval. So stick at it. You ask me, but how do I know about the interval? You yourself determine the interval, surely. We have today in our modern world a little world which confuses most of us. I know it confused me until I dug, a little deeper. The word is action. Action is supposed to be the most fundamental thing in the world. It is not an atom. It is more fundamental. It is part of an atom, like an electron. It is more fundamental than that. They call it the fourth dimensional unit. The most fundamental thing in the world is action. And when I saw that bit previously, I was like, oh, this is now going into, because everything's a certain way until you get atomic, and then you go subatomic, and as quantum theory is found, it all goes to pot. Why can you not trust an atom? Here's a joke. Gonna have a little brief intermission. Does anybody know this joke? Why can you not trust an atom? I'll let you you tell me, and I'm just going to scroll up. I want the answer to that joke. Why can you not trust an atom? Bern, hello. Got Lisa, Gansters. Who else we got here? Stephen. Anesu. I can't make any of you blue at the minute because I'm mobile, so Black Cat, my sister. I'm just looking at your comments. Why can't you trust an atom? Barnes does. All is a tum. Oh, that's a sinker. You haven't seen you for a while. I'm asking about atoms and a tum steps in. Christian CDBLK95. Much love. I like that. Welcome to the fam. We are going to be live later on SPLS Pro on a private cast, and Kevin and I promise to be there. Kevin's said he'll be there tomorrow night. So the last planned Sunday cast at 10 p.m. ish after I did part 1 of this was cancelled due to weary old men not having the energy. And these weary old men are still weary and old, but we're going to have the energy for tomorrow, and Kevin and I will be on the public cast for you tomorrow, Sunday, about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Okay, tonight we're on the .com on a private stream that you'll get the links for both unlisted tube and Zoom later. All right. Mickey Finn, chin chin, Amen Ra, and Esu. Thumbs up. Thank you, Gansders, for promoting and helping and putting the links in. God bless you there. Creator bless, my brother. Nice icons. Thank you. That S after Ganders' name means channel, or anybody's calling screen name is a channel supporter. And thank you all for that. And I think that's the same. The ones that are chatting. Claire, I think I said hello to you earlier, of the Randall fam. We need to catch up and discuss what we said on the Telegram chat. That hasn't been forgotten. All right, so I've skimmed and said hello and thank you in the intermission of this intervention. Let's get you back there. Made out of proton and neutron, so it's bipolar. Atoms can't be trusted because they can be split. Close. That's close. Made out of proton and neutron, so it's bipolar. Atoms can't be trusted. Why not? Because they make up everything. That's a dad joke, that is. That's for dads. Mums, leave that alone. It's not for you. Mums have good jokes. Yeah, do you like that? And all is a tum popping in to say. So the most fundamental thing in the world is action. All right, you ask, what is action? Actors deeds. Jesus of this world, no part of it. Sentiment and the references we've put there. I execute deeds. Deeds are in fact done by I man David. Action, actors. We'll get into that later. There's a lot of Latin I could throw in there. And human beings and human doings and deeds themselves. Deeds aren't just on paper, like as in deeds to property, but you can do a good deed, you know. So our physicists tell us that it is energy multiplied by time. Action is energy multiplied by time. We become more confused and say energy multiplied by time. What does that mean? The answer: there is no response to a stimulus, no matter how intense the stimulus, unless it endures for a certain length of time. There must be a minimum endurance to the stimulus, pardon me, or there is no response. On the other hand, there is no response to time unless there is a minimum degree of intensity. Today, the most fundamental thing in the world is called action, or simply energy multiplied by time. The Bible gives it as 3 days. The duration is 3 days for response in this world. So does the bill of exchange, 72 hours to return a contract, no consent. You have 3 days. Sorry, but just popping in there, any other references of 3 and time and action, I'd like you to let me know of. Let me get it straight. If I would now assume I am what I want to be, and if I am faithful to it, as walk as though I were, the very longest stretch given for its realization is 3 days. 3 is the magic number, as we've come to find. If there is something now that you really want in this world, then experience in imagination what you would experience in the flesh, were you to realize your goal and deafen your ears and blind your eyes to all that denies the reality of your assumption. And if you do this, you would be able to tell me before I leave this city of Los Angeles, that you have realized what was only a wish when you came here. It will be my joy to rejoice with you in the knowledge that the child which was seemingly dead is now alive. This damsel really was not dead. She was only asleep. You fed her in this silence because you have meat no one else knows of. You gave her food. I carry on. And she became resurrected, living reality within your world. Then you can share your joy with me, with us. We can share joy together. And I can rejoice in your joy. The purpose of these lessons is to remind you of the law of your own being, the law of consciousness. You are that law. You were only unconscious of its operation. You fed and kept alive the things you did not wish to express within this world. Take this challenge and put this philosophy to the test. If it does not work, you should not use it as a comforter. If it is not true, you must completely discard it. I know it's true. You will not know it until you try either to prove or disprove it. Too many of us have joined isms, and we were afraid to put them to the test because we feel it might fail. Trying the first step to failure. Quote there by Homer J. Simpson. And then, where are we? Not really wanting to know the truth concerning it. We hesitate to be bold enough to put it to the test. You say, I know it would work in some other way. I do not want to really test it while I have not yet disproved it. I can still be comforted by it. Now do not fool yourself. Do not think for 1 second, be that ye are wise. Prove or disprove this law. I know that if you attempt to disprove it, you will prove it. And I will be the richer for you proving it. Not in dollars, not in pounds, not in things, but because you become the living fruit of what I believe I am teaching in this world. It is far better to have you a successful, satisfied, conscious, authentic man, previously person, after 5 days of instruction than to have you go out dissatisfied. I hope you will be bold enough to challenge this instruction and these 2 videos reference Does the VAT-I-CAN Own Thy Soul? Okay, and now you can act upon and reclaim, in many ways more than thy soul, it appears. You can reclaim the realm, you can manifest your future, and you can become stronger, healthier, as well as this I don't know, the dispositions that we have will be laid to rest. I hope you were bold enough to challenge or disprove it. Now, before we go into this silence period, what silence period? I don't know. Now, before we go into the silence period, I shall briefly explain the technique again. We have but 2 techniques in applying this law. Everybody on this cast now, on the replay or reading the document, whichever way, must here now know exactly what he or she wants. You must know that if you do not get it now, you will still be as desirous tomorrow concerning this objective. When you know exactly what you want, construct in your mind's eye a single simple event which implies fulfillment of your desire, an event wherein self predominates instead of sitting back and looking at yourself as though you were on the screen. You be the actor in the drama. For me, I'm actually looking at me on the screen. I am the actor in the drama as Indy. But this is on to do with what you want and seeing yourself in the future having something of which you desire. Restrict the event to one single action. If you're going to shake a hand because that implies fulfillment of your desire, then do that and only do that. Do not shake hands and then wander off in your imagination to a dinner party or to some other place. A dinner party. Oh, wow. Restrict your action to simply shaking hands and do it over and over and over. A repetition, your mantra, keeps doing that until the handshake takes on the solidity and the distinctiveness of reality. If you feel you cannot remain faithful to an action, I want you to now define your objective and then condense the idea, which is your desire, into a single phrase or a phrase which implies fulfillment of your desire. Some phrase such as, isn't it wonderful? When I was anxious previously and I was a warehouse manager for an international multi-billion-pound drugs company, and I was running their .com department, and they left me without enough training to run .com department, and I was just a mid-30s old, still angry, confused, giddy, rebel without a pause lad that was confident in some ways, but not very confident in my ability to run a picking department, manually foot picking off shelves with totes, a fork truck picking department out there in the warehouse up to 12 levels high with fork trucks running. You've got the health and safety to think of, you've got that always comes first, yes, you've got the productivity to think of, and the fulfillment of what the orders are at Christmas time, and it's in peak time, and nobody wanted to work on this department, and all the toenails and bum lickers that were up there with the hoi polloi never got put on this department, but the young blood, the new ones, got put on this department. And it was a very fast, hard moving, dangerous, intricate department, and you needed to use a laptop or a computer to manage it. It was all computer based, even though it was run by flesh and blood man. It was so demanding and so big. It was all over the warehouse, but it was run from one place, and it had tables and rows of packers. It had physical people pulling pallet trucks, pump trucks with totes picking off shelves. It had an upstairs department where they had picking upstairs and put away. They used to put stuff away as well as take stuff out, the returned items and the new stock. It had people outside on fork trucks picking from 12 layers up, bulk amounts of pallets to serve as replen for the upstairs department that was packing and picking and fulfilling orders too. We had downstairs, we had tables, we had fork trucks, we had shelf replen, we had shelf put away, and it all had to be done via a system, a Swedish system. And they gave me a week's training, and then one day I went in at 6 a.m. and I'd had a phone call on the way in, and it was my number. I don't know how to put this to you now, but the one that worked, I was the manager, I was the one on the department running it, so I was the department manager for .com, and I'd had a week's training. And then the man who was with me as my charge hand, my supervisor, the one that knew everything, an excellent Polish man called Thomas, one of the best managers I ever did meet, Thomas and Krzysztof. Those that know me will know of Thomas and Krzysztof, two Polish amazing gentlemen, brothers and managers. They showed me what to do. Me and Thomas was in. Thomas rang up. He was sick. He couldn't come in. And I went, what do you mean you can't come in? That means I'm on my own. Never mind, how are you? When will you be better? I'm sorry to hear that. Panic. And I was like, okay then. So I had to manifest on the way to work. What did I do? Did I panic? Did I cry? Did I call in sick? Think I'll teach them a lesson. They've only given me a week's training. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how I'm going to run that department. Did I let it all fall apart? No. I went in, and on the way in, it was only a 10-minute journey, so I didn't have a lot of time, I went in and I said to myself, you are the number one manager. You have learned what you need to learn. This day will go well. And I kept repeating, because I had Inner Dave panicking, and I had to tell him to shut up, and all these problems and passcodes and departments. And I went, be quiet. And I put him to bed. And I had to manifest a good, productive, safe, honourable day, rather than running away and letting everything go to panic, which was a 50-50 at that point, what was going to happen. When I got in there and I did the briefing at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and inside I was like, the scream. I had to stand in front of a team of 60 to 8. No, it was Christmas peak, 120 doubles at 140-ish, 120. And most of them were employees of that company, but the rest were agency staff, a good 60 agency staff, and 80 core, knowledgeable, honourable in the systems, and that, that I could trust to do things. And I had to pick out some to come and assist me. And I had to explain, Thomas isn't here, look. I'm David, I'm new. I've come from seasonal. I've not been here before. And they've put me on here to learn it. And it turns out, after a week, I've now got to run this. And I'm on my own, and I don't know very much about much, but I'll try my best. We're not going to shout. We're not going to lose it. I'm going to go upstairs and see the managers and let them know I've only had a week's training and I'm on my own, and they need to help us out. How do we work as a team and make this day work? Anybody that wants to step up and feels confident and has systems knowledge, I need you to help me today. And your help will be rewarded and you will be recognized. And at least 15 people stepped up. I know how to do that. I'll take care of that. I'll lead the fork trucks, give out radios. Everybody that was on that stepping up team had a radio. We talked to each other. The computer, yeah, you know, I managed it. I had somebody there doing it. A couple of the admin girls, to be fair, I forget the names, helped me out. So that just goes to show you, you know, my desire was to run away and hide. The reality was, you know, to do it and to mentally overcome. And that was a big thing for me. It may seem random and not really relevant too, but there are times where you want to scream and run away and cry and you can't. And you need to see what you've got to get your sin out of it. So the power of prayer. I prayed on the way to work. I hope that they're all in, and the good ones that know stuff, you know, and the agency staff, even though they were agency, they were equal, all are equal. They pulled the weight too. There were some excellent agency workers. So yes, let's continue on. I was thankful, let me tell you. If you feel you cannot remain faithful to an action, I want you to define your objective and condense the idea, which is your desire, into a single phase or phrase which implies fulfillment of your desire. Some phrase such as, isn't it wonderful? Or if I felt thankful because I thought someone was instrumental in bringing my desire to pass, I could say thank you and repeat it with feeling over and over again, like a lullaby, until my mind was dominated by the single sensation of thankfulness. We will now sit quietly in these chairs with the idea, which implies fulfillment of our desire, condensed to a single phrase or to a single act. We will relax and immobilize our physical bodies, then let us experience in imagination the sensation which our condensed phrase or action affirms. Affirmations, not just mantras. If you imagine yourself shaking another one's hand, do not use your physical hand, but let it remain immobilized. But imagine that housed within your hand is a more subtle, more real hand, which can be extracted in your imagination. Put your imaginary hand into the imaginary hand of your friend who stands before you and feel that handshake. Mentalize it, see it. Keep your physical body immobilized, even though you become mentally active in what you are now about to do. It's written here by Neville that we're going to go into the silence, but we did a little bit of that at the end of the last video. We're going to continue on page 59 of 96, 2 hours in, and we're going to go on to day 4, entitled No One to Change But Self. May I take just a minute to clarify what was said previously? A lady felt from what I said in the previous days that I am anti one nation. I do hope that I am not anti any race or belief. If perchance I used a nation, it was only to illustrate a point. So I believe the naming of Jew there, where he's mentioned in the works, the Jew, maybe it would be, but I've also pointed out through the major 3, you know, Abrahamic racists and racist 3 Abrahamic religions, that all is one. So that's just something what was said, and to reiterate. So what I tried to tell you was, we became what we contemplate, for it is the nature of love as it is the nature of hate, to change us into the likeness of that which we contemplate. Previously, I simply read a news item to show you that when we think we can destroy our image by breaking the mirror, we are only fooling ourselves. When through war or revolution we destroy titles which to us represent arrogance and greed, we become in time the embodiment of that which we thought that we had destroyed. So today, the people who thought they destroyed the tyrants are themselves that which they thought they had destroyed. That I may not be understood. Let me again lay the foundation of this principle. Consciousness is the one and only reality. We are incapable of seeing other than the contents of our own consciousness. Therefore, hate betrays us in the hour of victory and condemns us to be that which we condemn. All conquest results in an exchange of characteristics so that conquerors become like the conquered foe. We hate others for the evil which is in ourselves. Races, nations, and religious groups have lived for centuries in intimate hostility, and it is the nature of hatred, as in the nature of love, to change us into the likeness of that which we contemplate. Nations act towards other nations as their own citizens act towards each other. When slavery exists in a state and that nation attacks another, it is with the intent to enslave. When there is a fierce economic competition between citizen and citizen, then in war with another nation, the object of war is to destroy the trade of the enemy. Wars of domination are brought about by the will of those who within a state are dominant over the fortunes of the rest. We radiate the world that surrounds us by the intensity of our imagination and feelings. In this third dimensional world of our time beats more slowly. In this third dimensional world, our time beats more slowly. And so we do not always observe the relationship of the visible world to our inner nature. Now that is really what I meant. I thought I had said it, that I may not be understood. That is my principle. You and I can contemplate an ideal and become it by falling in love with it. On the other hand, we can contemplate something which we heartily dislike, and by condemning it, we will then in turn become it. But because of the slowness of time in this three-dimensional world, when we do become what we contemplate, we have forgotten that formerly we set out to worship or destroy it. So today's section is the capstone of the Bible. So do give me your attention. The most important question asked in the Bible may be found in the 16th chapter of the Gospel of St. Matthew. As you know, most of the Bible stories are your stories. Its characters live only in the mind of man. They have no reference at all to any person who lived in time and space, or to any event that ever occurred upon thy earth. The drama related in Matthew takes place in this manner. Jesus turns to his disciples and asks them, "Whom do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" Matthew 16:13. And they said, "Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets." He saith unto them, "But whom say ye that I am?" And Simon Peter answered and said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered and said unto him, "Blessed art thou, Simon, Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say unto thee that thou art Peter." And Peter stands by the gates, doesn't he there? Privilege of Peter. "Upon this rock I will build my church." Matthew 16 and then 14 to 18. Jesus turning to his disciples is man turning to his disciplined mind in self-contemplation. You ask yourself the question, whom do men say that I am? In our language, I wonder what men think of me. I know what most think of me, because here I am, and I have had quite a lot of interaction. Your answer, some say rebel without a pause, some say indie, some say sovereign G, so we wonder what men think of us. Some say John, come again, Elias, some say Jeremiah, and others a prophet of old, come again. It is very flattering to be told that you are, or that you resemble the great men of the past. But enlightened reason is not enslaved by public opinion. It is only concerned with truth. So it asks itself another question. But whom say ye that I am? In other words, who am I? That's a good Jackie Chan film for all the Kung Fu fans out there. Who am I? Jackie Chan, back in the day. If I am bold enough to assume that I am Christ Jesus, not Jesus Christ, Christ Jesus. That's another little play on the two names there, Jesus Christ and Christ Jesus. The answer will come back, thou art Christ Jesus. When I can assume it and feel it, boldly live it, When I can assume it and feel it and boldly live it, I will say to myself, flesh and blood could not have told me this, but my Father which is in heaven revealed it unto me. Then I make this concept of the self on the rock on which I establish my church, my world. If ye believe not that I am he, ye shall die in your sins. John 8 and 24. Because consciousness is the only reality, I must assume that I am already that which I desire to be. If I do not believe that I am already what I want to be, then I remain and I am dying this limitation. And I will die. It's not always me saying the words wrong, it's just the way that it's written. Man is always looking for some prop on which to lean. He is always looking for some excuse to justify failure. This revelation gives man no excuse for failure. His concept of himself is the cause of all the circumstance of his life. All change must first come from within himself. And if he does not change on the outside, it is because he has not changed within. The man does not like to feel that he is solely responsible for the conditions of life. You have a friend within. As a DJ, I've got some dance track remixes that are by Friend Within. You're talking to the friend within, all right? From that time, many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him. Then Jesus unto the 12, will ye also go away? Then Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? Thou hast the words of eternal life. John chapter 6, verse 66 to 68. I may not like what I have just heard, that I must turn my own consciousness as to the only reality, the only foundation on which all phenomena can be explained, similar to Buddha's teachings here and other continents' teachings. When I say they are similar and the sum of one contains the parts of many, yes, hijack stories, stories of creation, the Enuma Elish, as I mentioned at the beginning of video 1, and then adapted on by different empires. I may not like what I have just heard, that I must turn my own consciousness as to the only reality, the only foundation on which all phenomena can be explained. It was easier living when I could blame another. Ignorance is bliss. It was much easier living when I could blame society for my ills or point a finger across the sea and blame another nation. It was easier living when I could blame the weather for the way that I feel. Does the Vatican own thy soul? I don't care. So what? You know, not bothering to investigate it. Well, they shall not be delivered. You know, they will not be saved. Taking the Father's name in vain, believing that certain things are the way they are, and just not bothering to you know, do any digging to discover disc over wide discovery. But to tell me that I am the cause of all that happens to me, that I am forever melding my word in harmony within a nature, that is more man is willing to accept. If this is true, to whom would I go? If these are all words of eternal life, I must return to them, even though they seem so difficult to digest. When man fully understands this, he knows that public opinion does not matter, for men only tell him who he is. The behavior of men constantly tell me who I have conceived myself to be. If I accept this challenge and begin to live by it, I finally reach the point that is called the great prayer of the Bible. It is related in the 17th chapter of the Gospel of St. John. I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. John 17 and 4. O now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. John 17:5. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou gavest me I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition. John 17:12. It is impossible for anything to be lost. In this divine economy, not divine comedy, but in this divine economy, nothing can be lost. It cannot even pass away. The little flower which has bloomed once blooms forever. It is invisible to you here with your limited focus, but it blooms forever in the large dimension of your being, and tomorrow you will encounter it. and thou gavest me, I have kept in thy name, and none have I lost, save the son of perdition. The son of perdition means simply the belief in a loss. Son is a concept, an idea. Perido is loss. I have only truly lost the concept of lost, for nothing can indeed be lost. I can descend from the sphere where the thing itself now lives, and as I descend into consciousness to a lower level within myself, it passes from my world. I say, I have lost my health, I have lost my wealth, I have lost my standing in the community, I have lost faith, I have lost 1,000 things, but the things in themselves, having once been real in my world, can never cease to be. They never become unreal with the passage of time. I, by my descent in consciousness to a lower level, cause these things to disappear from my sight, and I say, they have gone, they are finished as far as my world goes. All I need do is to ascend to the level where they are eternal, 3 a.m. eternal, and they once more objectify themselves and appear as realities within my world. The crux of the whole 17th chapter of the Gospel of John is found in the 19th verse, and for their sake I sanctify myself, that they also might be sanctified through the truth. Heretofore I thought I could change others through effort. Now I know I cannot change another unless I first change myself. To change another within my world, I must first change my concept of that other, and to do it best, I change my concept of self. For it was the concept I held of self that made me see others as I did. Such an excellent writing. When we say there's nothing new under the sun, and this is from 1930s, and others have taken from this and not really given credence to it and made it their own, and then they come across and say, look what I know, but it's what we know as a family. Okay, had I a noble dignified concept of myself, I never could have seen the unlovely in others. Instead of trying to change others through argument and force, let me but ascend in consciousness to a higher level, and I will automatically change others by the changing of self. There is no one to change but self. That self is simply your awareness, your consciousness, and the world in which it lives is determined by the concept you hold of self. The big sentences, what he writes, and the grammar is not always there for the pause and the breath. It is to consciousness that we must turn as to the only reality, for there is no clear conception of the origin of phenomena except that consciousness is all and all is consciousness. You need no helper to bring you what you seek. Do not for 1 second believe that I am advocating escape from reality when I ask you to simply assume you are now the womb man that you want to be. If you and I could feel what it would be like were we now that which we want to be and live in this mental atmosphere as though it was real, then in a way we do not know. Our assumption would harden into fact. That is all we need to do in order to ascend to the level of where our assumption is already in our objective, concrete reality. Now I take you to a moment here where I look at the assumptions and presumptions of the core, and if you do not and have paperwork that precedes you, their assumptions harden into fact. You will be the trustee, the surety for that civil charges and debt. You see, when I say that the legal system has taken things from nature and made them into their system in order to maybe naturify them, and also for us. So when we tell you and look at certain positions of legal, Roman, secular, and then we look at paperwork, last will and testament, probate, estate, intestacy, look at the 10 commercial maxims of law. Look at my video that I did called Lex Mercatoria, and those 10 commercial legal axioms and precedents and maxims of law. Then look at the 20 legal equitable maxims, because equity, this is legal equity, not ecclesiastical equity. not private, lawful Abrahamic equity. I'd argue that the books and the Gospels are totally separate from the church, which is why I say ecclesiastical equity and then keep Abrahamic equity separate, and then legal equity. So when we're looking at law and maxims and assumptions and presumptions, it's got layers and correlations, and one links to the other, and the journey will complete the circle. So I need change no man. I sanctify myself, and in doing so I will sanctify others. To the pure, all things that are pure. There is nothing unclean of itself, but to him that esteemeth anything to be unclean, to him it is unclean. And you can find that in Romans 14:14. There is nothing in itself unclean, but you, by your concept of self, see things either clean or unclean. And I and my Father are one. John 10:30. If I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. If I do not the works of my Father, believe me not. It's amazing how these things are written. But if I do, through ye believe not me, but believe the works, that ye may know and believe that the Father is in me and I in him. John 10:37-38. He made himself one with God, and thought it not strange or robbery to do the works of God. You always bear fruit in harmony with that what you are. It is the most natural thing in the world for a pear tree to bear pears, for an apple tree to bear apples, and for man to mold the circumstances of his life in harmony with his inner nature. I believe they've crossed apples and pears now, haven't they? And they've created a new fruit. But carrying on, genetic splicing. I am the vine, ye are the branches. When we talk about rivers and branches and trees, and going back to the tree as a branch, and again, banks have branches, rivers have a stream, they have branches and banks and branches, high street branches, a tree of life, the vine tree, the olive tree. But I am the vine, ye are the branches. John 15:5. A branch has no life save it be rooted in all the vine. All I need do to change the fruit is to change the vine. Before I've said we're changing the track, we're changing the DJ. It's not so much just changing the track and playing you a new track and a new tune. Now we're actually moving the man out, and we're putting on a new man with new music. Selector, rewind. When SPL say Bo selector, or rewind when SPLS Pro selector. All right, Craig David, you have no life in my world save that I am conscious of you. You are rooted in me like fruit. You bear witness of the vine that I am. There is no reality in the world other than your consciousness. Although you may now seem to be what you do not want to be, all you need to do to change it and to prove the change by circumstance in your world is to quietly assume that you are now which you want to be, and in a way you do not know, you will become it. There is no other way to change this world. I am the way. My amness, my consciousness is the way by which I change my world. I've suddenly gone all cold and shivery in this hot, warm studio room here. I may need to temporarily, the hooded one. Suddenly I feel the presence, a coldness, a stillness. My I amness, my consciousness is the way by which I change my world. As I change my concept of self, I change my world. When men and women help or hinder us, they only play the part that we, by our concept of self, wrote for them, and they play it automatically. They must play the parts they are playing because we are what we are. You will change the world only when you become the embodiment of that which you want the world to be. You have but one gift in this world that is truly yours to give, and that is yourself. Unless you yourself are that which you want the world to be, you will never see it in this world, except ye believe not that I am he. Ye shall die in your sins. John 8:24. Do you know that no two sins in this room live in the same world? We're going home to different worlds tonight. We close our doors on entirely different worlds. We rise up tomorrow. We may go to work where we may meet each other and meet others, but we live in different mental worlds, different physical worlds. Consciously, yes, we do. I can only give what I am. I have no other gift to give. If I want the world to be perfect, and who does not? I have failed only because I did not know that I could never see it perfect until I see myself perfect. You can't love others until you love yourself. If I am not perfect, I cannot see perfection. But the day that I become it, I beautify my world because I see it through my own eyes. Until the pure, all things are pure. Titus 1:15. I'd say Titus because there's no E. No two here can tell me that you have heard the same message any one night on these videos without, through reading this publication. The one thing that you must do is hear what I say through that which you are. It must be filtered through your prejudices, your superstitions, and your concept of self. Whatever you are, it must come through that and be coloured by what you are. Human, colour of man, Black's law, colour of law. If you are disturbed and you would like me to be something other than what I appear to be, then you must be that which you want me to be. We must become the thing that we want others to be, or we will never see them be it. Gandhi, be the change you want to see. Around about the same time as Neville's works here. Be the change you'd like to see. Your consciousness, my consciousness, is the only true foundation in this world. That which is called Peter in the Bible, not man. This faithfulness that cannot turn to anyone, that cannot be flattered when you are told by men, you are John, come again. That is very flattering to be told, you are John the Baptist, come again, or the great prophet Elias, or even Jeremiah. Then I deafen my ears to this very flattering little bit of news men would give me, and I ask myself, but who honestly am I? If I can deny the limitations of my birth, my environment, and the belief that I am but an extension of my family tree, and feel within myself that I am Christ, and sustain this assumption until it takes central place and forms the habitual center of my energy, I will do the works attributed to Jesus without thought or effort. I will mold a world in harmony with that perfection which I have assumed and feel springing in within me. When I open the eyes of the blind, unstop the ears of the deaf, give joy for the morning and beauty for ashes, then only then have I truly established this vine deep within. That is what I would automatically do. I'm warm again now, I'm back to normal. That is what I would automatically do. Were I truly conscious of being Christ. It is said of this presence, he proved that he was Christ by his works. And, when I had affirmation from Santos there saying, so we come with Jesus as Christ-like consciousness. Fair income. I'm like, what? I came to that conclusion myself, not by reading this and not by hearing that by Santos's words and not by copying it of another. It dawned upon the consciousness. And when I read this, I was like, we need to speak, we need to get this out, we need to give thanks and have a chat and follow on from Santos, Jordan, Eric von Daniken and others such works and many others. Our ordinary alterations of consciousness as we pass from one state to another are not transformations, because each of them is so rapidly succeeded by another in the reverse direction. But whenever our assumption grows so stable as to definitively expel its rivals, then that central habitual concept defines our character and is a true transformation. Jesus, or enlightened reason, saw nothing unclean in the woman taking in adultery. He said to her, hath no man condemned thee? John 8:10. She said, no man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. John 8:11. No matter what is brought before the presence of beauty, it sees only beauty. Jesus was so completely identified with the lovely that he was incapable of seeing the unlovely. Ain't that lovely? When you and I really become conscious of being Christ, we too will straighten the arms of the withered and resurrect the dead hopes of men. We will do all the things that we could not do when we felt ourselves limited by our family tree. It is a bold step and should not be taken lightly, because to do it is to die. John, the man of the 3 dimensions, is beheaded or loses his 3-dimensional focus, that Jesus, the 4th dimensional self, may indeed live. Any enlargement of concept of self involves a somewhat painful parting with the strongly rooted hereditary conceptions. This is like practical Bible science in such a way that, you know, I've never heard put, that aligns and brings in so many areas of, and this is pre-Christian as well, to be fair, not just New World, New Translation, and also Torah. It's written and premises before this. So I'm so excited and I just can't hide it. The ligaments are strong that hold us in the womb of conventional limitations. The Matrix, the pod, Mr. Anderson breaking out of the pod and becoming whom? Neo. You see, all that you formerly believed, you no longer believed. You now know that there is no power outside of your own consciousness. Therefore, you cannot turn to anyone outside of self. You want out doing right, do it this end, is what I used to hear up in Sheffield. You have no ear, sending a boy to do a man's job. You have no ears for the suggestion that something else has power in it. You know only the reality is God, and God is your own consciousness. There is no other God. Therefore, on this rock you build the everlasting church and boldly assume you are this divine being, self-begotten, because you dared to appropriate that which was not given to you in your cradle of concept of self, not formed in your mother's womb, a concept of self outside of the offices of man. The story is beautifully told to us in the Bible using the 2 sons of Abraham, one the blessed Isaac, born outside the offices of man, and the other Ishmael, born in bondage. Sarah was much too old to beget a child, so her husband Abraham went unto the bondservant Hagar, the pilgrim and chic bondservant. That's right, the General Registry Office, bondsman. That's why when I saw that word, I went, bondservant, Bible, Jesus, General Registry Office, mum and dad, little baby David, bondsman. I am the bondsman of Christ when I speak of this. You see, when I've said previously, I consider myself to be classified as God's little bast and also the bondsman of Christ. My word is my bond. Ooh, 007 sovereign bond. Until the bondservant of Hagar, the pilgrim, she convened. I get so excited. I'm sorry. She conceived of the old and bore him a son called Ishmael. Ishmael's hand was against every man, and every man's hand against him. Every child born of woman is born into bondage, born into all that his environment represents, regardless of whether it be throne of England, the White House, or any great place in the world. Every child born of woman is personified as this Ishmael, the child of Hagar. And there's another word for bondage, which we'll skip past, which has sexual connotations. Think about it, being tied up and abused, basically, with your consent. But you see, again, and why that act is called that act. Because when I was little, I used to think, who is it in the world that makes these dictionary, you know, a computer is called a computer, a television is called a television. It was upon the finding of the telephone and Alexander Graham Bell, you know, and somebody crapper, Thomas Crapper, for the toilet. And I'm like, aha, so the toilet's really the crapper. The dunny, the head, the crapper, the toilet. Alexander Graham Bell wanted to tell her phone. It's a phone to tell somebody on. So a tell her phone, tell lie vision. Used to sit around the fire as tribal herbalists and tell a story, smoke the peace pipe, get the spirit from the fire, and tell a vision. So as a young one, it was upon the findings of the telephone in the toilet that then led me to think, so what about the rest? Who is it? And where is this institution? And how is it? So words and meanings, they're not always by coincidence, or certain things that we have invented new, like the string theory. String has always existed as a word, and so has theory, but putting the dash between and hyphenating them, joining them together, putting them in a new paradigm. And also quantum mechanics, and certain things that are words that we didn't have before, like the Romans seeing alien ships, calling them flying shields. They didn't say alien. They didn't have that word, I don't think, in their vocabulary. They didn't have UFO, unidentified flying objects, or aerial phenomenon, and certain things that we've got now. Remember the Pentagon's release of the Tic Tac, and things aren't all as they seem. So they're either coming from inner Earth, from outer Earth, extraterrestrial, or they're out of our present space. So words and the definitions, and Romans seeing flying shields in the sky, is what they said. So it's very interesting how I find all of this and the connectivity to it with the etymological root word references. But asleep in every child is the blessed Isaac, who is born outside of the offices of man, and is born through the faith alone. The second child has no earthly father. He is self-begotten. What is the second birth? According to the author, not what's written on the homepage of splspro.com and what we've said in previous videos, and the bondsman and the registration being the creation of the citizenship, and the citizenship being the second coming of man by that act with the bondsman and mum and dad. But the second birth in itself, dying and being reborn, just basically, the author here finds himself cannot go back into his mother's womb, and yet I must be born a second time. So except a man be born again, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. And that comes from John 3:3. I quietly appropriate that which no man can give me, no woman can give me. I dare to assume that I am God. This must be of faith. This must be of promise. Then I become the blessed. I will become Isaac. As I begin to do the things that only this presence could do, I know that I am born out of the limitations of Ishmael, and I have become heir to the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God resides within, under the dome, at the temples. Ishmael could not inherit anything, although his father was Abraham or God. Ishmael did not have both parents of the godly. His mother was Hagar, the bondwoman. First time I've ever seen that word, and those two words joined up, sorry. And so he could not partake of his father's estate. You are Abraham and Sarah, Abraham, Salibraham, and contained within your own consciousness, cloud grey, there is one waiting for recognition. In the Old Testament, it is called Isaac, and in the New Testament, it is called Jesus, and is born without the aid of man. No man can tell you that you are Christ Jesus. No man can tell you and convince you that you are God. You must toy with the idea and wonder what it would be like to be God. No clear conception of the origin of phenomena is possible except that consciousness is all, and all is consciousness. Linking into Buddha type, major Asia type, nothing can be evolved from man that was not potentially involved in its nature. The ideal we serve and hope to attain could never be evolved from us were it not potentially involved in nature, in our nature. Let me now retell and emphasize an experience of mine printed by me 2 years ago under the title The Search. I think it will help you to understand this law of consciousness and show you that you have no one to change but self, for you are incapable of seeing other than the contents of your own consciousness. So before we get on to that, I'd just like to say to you all now, imagine if I had 10,000, 60,000, 100,000 scribes, and we all did an experiment, and we all did what is proposed in these words so far, page 67 of 96. Okay, and we all did this, and then we all relayed our, and I'd love to see, you know, and imagine what would happen outside, imagine what would happen in our communities, imagine what would happen in law, not, and I say law, what law? In our law, in Abrahamic law. Okay, just think a moment. And what is being said and how others have said it. And I'm not the first, I won't be the last, but I'm helping to put the missing jigsaw pieces back in, you know, and we're getting the fragmented and pictures taking a form, a shape, and you've found the chalice, you've found, you know, the Ark of the Covenant to some extent, you know. When we look at Judaism, when we look at Abrahamic, and we look at Christianity, imagine the power, you know, Michael Tellinger, I need to have a chat with him, that would be excellent. Jordan Santos Tellinger Jeremita, and Jordan Santos Tellinger Jeremita, and who else would you like to see there? Hey, that'd be a panel to have, wouldn't it? Jordan's not too well, I believe he's had another heart issue. Regardless of Masonic or non-Masonic, I'd still like to chat to Jordan at least once. I would like Santos's opinions of current revelations and his up-to-date works there. You know, Michael Tellinger, I kind of had respect for in the beginning, but I'm not so sure. Oh, Pazio, I'll finish it for you. Maxwell, Bernacci, Pazio, Jeremita, and could you imagine? And then it would be so nice. It would be amazing. Just imagine the love and the fear that would be lost alone, you know. And then we could look at, once we've protected, and you know thyself, and you can face this Roman system that England has shipped out all across the realm, you know, civil court systems. Okay, this country, this landmass, because Rome came here, William the Conqueror, you know, in London, as we've pointed out, in the city of London that resides in the town of London town. You've got Sadiq Khan, a mayor for London town, and then you've got the Lord Mayor for the corporate city of London. So imagine we could overthrow what has happened since 1066, and we could honourably be protected. You know, we could stand as one, and we can all hold hands, get around that city, and get it sorted out. You know, that nation, should I say, it's not a city, it's called the corporate city of London, but it has shipped out monetary mechanics all around the realm. Bond Street and Wall Street, Wailing Wall. Where's the Wailing Wall, everybody? Exactly, the Big Apple. New York, you know, a knife, a fork, a bottle and a cork. That's the way they run New York. So we could finally put to bed these oh, you'll go to hell and burn, you've got to live and suffer. You know, imagine if we could make others capable of seeing the contents of their own consciousness and manifesting their reality and moving around. So moving around, the alchemy, that's why the alchemists, it's mental alchemy, you know. So this needs to be undone, and it needs to be done with love and respect, non-violent. So when I say we've got a universal non-sectarian remedy where man would declare the world's resources common heritage again, it's exactly what we're talking about. Peaceful, loving, bringing all the houses and others, the Rastafari and the Buddhism, the Hindu. India is quite fascinating in itself, from Praveen Moham channel, and what I've learned through the Holy Rig Vedas, the Mahabharata and the Gita and other such things. It's too much, you know. We need to get together, and I want that panel, and I want Praveen Moham with that panel of 5-6 then. Come on. You know, I think then maybe if there was such a thing, you know, literalists, I think the sky may well open up and the sky gods may come down and actually go, praise be, bless upon this council. You've done it. We are here. Here is the rapture. Boom. You know, who knows? I'm waffling, and I can't wait to see the comments. I'll look at them on the replay when I eventually replay this, and I'll skim back soon. So I'm getting back to the document, 67 of 96, 20 past 6, nearly 3 hours in. 2 hours and 50 minutes. I did think I'd do this in 3 hours. So Experience of the author. All right. I mean, it was entitled The Search. Once in an ideal interval at sea, I meditated on the perfect state and wondered what I would be were I too pure eyes to behold iniquity. If to me all things were pure and were I without condemnation, as I became lost in this fiery brooding, I found myself lifted above the dark environment of the senses. So intense was feeling, I felt myself a being of fire dwelling in a body of air. Voices as from a heavenly chorus with the exultation of those who had been conquerors in a conflict with death were singing, "He is risen, he is risen," and intuitively I knew they meant me. Then I seemed to be walking in the night. I soon came upon a scene that might have been the ancient pool of Bethesda, for in this place lay a great multitude of impotent folk, blind, halt, withered, waiting for not the moving of water as of tradition, but waiting for me. As I came near, without thought or effort on my part, they were one after the other, moulded as by the magician of the beautiful eyes, hands and feet. All missing members were drawn from some invisible reservoir and moulded in harmony with that perfection which I felt springing within me. When all were made perfect, the chorus exulted, "It is finished." I know this vision was the result of my intense meditation upon the idea of perfection, for my meditations invariably bringing about union with the state contemplated. I had been so completely absorbed within the idea that for a while I had become what I contemplated, and the high purpose with which I had for that moment identified myself drew the companionship of higher things and fashioned a vision in harmony with my inner nature. The ideal with which we are united works by association of ideas to waken 1,000 moods to create a drama in keeping with the central idea. My mystical experiences have convinced me that there is no way to bring about the perfection we seek other than by the transformation of ourselves. As soon as we succeed, I should have said that in a Bob Marley style. As soon as we succeeded in transforming ourselves, the world will melt magically before our eyes and reshape itself in harmony with that which our transformation affirms. We fashion the world that surrounds us by the intensity of our imagination and feeling, and we illuminate or darken our lives by the concepts we hold of ourselves. Nothing is more important to us than our conception of ourselves, and especially is true of our concept of the deep dimensionally greater one within us. To those that help or hinder us, whether they know it or not, are the servants of the law which shapes our outward circumstances in harmony with our inner nature. It is our conception of ourselves which frees or constrains us, though it may use material agencies to achieve its purpose. Because life molds the outer world to reflect the inner arrangement of our minds, there is no way of bringing about the outer perfection we seek other by the transformation of ourselves. No help cometh from within. The hills to which we lift our eyes are those of an inner range. It is thus to our own consciousness that we must turn as to the only reality, the only foundation on which all phenomena can be explained. We rely absolutely on the justice of this law to give us only that which is of the nature of ourselves. To attempt to change the world before we change our concept of ourselves is to struggle against the nature of all things. It's important. Rewind selector. To attempt to change the world before we change our concept of ourselves is to struggle against the nature of things: status, standing, capacity, public, legal, person, private, lawful, authentic, womb man. And I've written underneath, as within, so without, as above, so below, as above, thoth, Hermes, corpus, hermetica. I am not advocating philosophical indifference when I suggest that we should imagine ourselves as already that which we want to be, living in a mental atmosphere of greatness, rather than using physical means and arguments to bring about the desired changes. Talk is cheap, Judge man by the actions. Everything we do unaccompanied by a change of consciousness is but futile. Readjustment of surfaces. Readjustment. Readjustment of surfaces. I tripped over that one, didn't I? However we toil or struggle, we can receive no more than our concepts of self to affirm. To protest against anything which happens to us is to protest against the law of our being and the rulership of our own destiny. Vote and protest. The circumstances of my life are too closely related to my conception of myself not to have been formed by my own spirit from some dimensionally larger storehouse of my being. If there is pain to me in these happenings, I should look within myself for the cause, for I am moved here and there and made to live in a world of harmony with my concept of myself. I can categorically deny all charges and proclaim my innocence. Protest, yes, notary protest. Pro and test. I've broken down that word recently, and much like de and de jure in itself, de facto, etc. Prepositions, propositions, adjectives, pronouns, and the quantum styles, grammar within the linguistics and the phonics and the sonics of the language of which we use and are familiar with. If we would become as emotionally aroused over our ideas as we could become over our dislikes or even football or sport, we would ascend to the plane of our ideal as easily now as we descend to the level of our hatred. Love and hate have a magical transforming power, and we grow through their exercise into the likeness of what we contemplate. By intensity of hatred, we create in ourselves the character we imagine in our enemies. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to the dark side. Master Yoda. By intensity of hatred, see George Lucas taking things and using things, and much like what I put with the Ghostbusters there, and truth being in plain sight, the Statue of Liberty, slime, music, good vibes, attraction. So by intensity of hatred, we create in ourselves the character we imagine in our enemies. Qualities die for want of attention, so that unlovely states might be best rubbed out by imagining beauty for ashes and joy for mourning, rather than by direct attacks on the state from which we would be free. Whatsoever things are lovely and of good report, think on these things, for we become that which we are on rapport. We become that with which we are on rapport. There is nothing to change but the concept of self. As soon as we succeed in transforming of self, our world will dissolve and reshape itself in harmony with that which our change affirms. I, by descent in consciousness, have brought about the imperfection that I see. In the divine economy, nothing is lost. We cannot lose anything save by descent in consciousness from the sphere where the thing has its natural life. And now, O Faber, glory thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the word was John 17:5. As I ascend in consciousness, the power and the glory that was mine return to me, and I too will say, I have finished the work thou gave me to do. The work is returned from my descent in consciousness, from the level wherein I believed that I was Son of Man, to the sphere where I know that I am one with my Father, and my Father is God. I know beyond all doubt that there is nothing for man to do but change his own concept of himself, to assume greatness and sustain this assumption. Hence why and when I read this and I looked at the work that we're doing as this channel, as David and Indy and SPLS Pro, I went, yes, I get that, but it's nice to hear it written from 1930s by Brother Neville. Let's crack on and see what the scribes say. I know beyond all doubt there is nothing for man to do but change his own concept of himself, to assume greatness and to sustain this assumption. If we walk as though we were already the ideal we serve, we will rise to the level of our assumption and find a world in harmony with our assumption. We will not have to lift a finger to make it so, for it is already so. It was always so. Make it so. Are you meeting me in the initiate's ready room? Because that's where it's going to begin. The initiate's ready room. You and I have descended in consciousness to the level where we now find ourselves, and we see imperfection because we have indeed descended. When we begin to ascend, while here in this three-dimensional world, we find that we move in an entirely different environment. We have entirely different circles of friends, an entirely different world, while still living here in the same paradigm. Yes? Yes. We know that the great mystery of the statement, I am in the world but not of it. Instead of changing things, I would suggest to all to identify themselves with the idea that they contemplate. What would the feeling be like were you two of pure eyes to behold iniquity? Into you all things were pure and were without condemnation. Contemplate the ideal state and identify yourself with it, and you will ascend, or start to ascend, to the sphere where you were as Christ. Have your authentic, natural life. You are still in that state where you were before the world was. The only thing that has fallen is your concept of self. You see the broken parts, which are not broken. You are seeing them through distorted eyes, as though you were in one of those peculiar amusement galleries where a man walks before a mirror and he is then elongated, yet he is the same man. Or he looks into another mirror and he is all big and fat. These things are seen today because man is what he is. Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon, Hall of Mirrors, demons. You know, I just, when I read that, I immediately, my mind went Bruce Lee into the stories of in that such which is stories from Asia, China, Confucius. Toy with the idea of perfection. Ask no man to help you, but let the prayer of the 17th chapter of the Gospel of St. John be your prayer. Appropriate the state that was yours before the world was. Know the truth of the statement, none have I lost save the son of perdition. None have I lost save the son of perdition. Nothing is lost in all my holy mountain. The only thing that you lose is the belief in loss and the son of perdition and fear. Anxiety, suicidal tendencies, anger. The Buddha was asked, what has meditation given you? Well, I'll answer it this way. Since meditation, I have lost anger, anxiety, hatred, self-doubt. You see? So again, same things written in a different way. Isn't it lovely to know that the Bible isn't just a book that you should believe in? All right? It's the basic information before leaving Earth. Bible, basic information before leaving Earth. Bibliotech, the sun, you, image, amazing. It's one and only time to come out. If anybody else has done a rendition of this, I'm going to want to know. If there is publications and groups and chats and websites and things relating to this, I'd like to know and see it, because we've really broke through the upper level now. I hope there is a chorus on the ethereal, esoteric levels. I hope there's since the 21st of December 2020, I hope that sonic boom is now ricocheting, much like the explosion of the universe. Not that it was, because obviously we're talking creator, creation, sky gods, but you see those two stories. Oh, it was the Big Bang. No, it was Jebus and God and Jehovah, and he came upon and it was without form. There's too many, so it doesn't actually hold strength. Well, now we're fist bumping man with the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, the Holy Consciousness. We've been creeping together and it's happened. All right. So the Bible is not just a story of which confuses man. It's a multifaceted, layered of interpretation, non-literal dance of self. What? And it's been ruined by the Romans to some extent, as we've pointed out, and we have much more to discuss on this. It's not over. All right, it is not over, but the statement has been put out there, and there is no one to change but self. All right, there's many messages coming through and echoing from what you've heard previously to what you know now, and I'm going to continue on. 70 of 96. I'm wondering, should we leave it another 3 hours and call it adieu at the next segue where I can leave it, and then continue on with a possible another 3 hours, or should I stay and try and waffle on and perhaps ruin it and burn you all out? Because I know for a fact you're all past your saturation point. There'll be a 5% demographic of my scribes that will actually be going, no, don't stop, this is brilliant, I need more, I want to hear the end. Well, I've told you through this video the author, the title, the rendition. I'll just remember to I haven't got the tube up, and you can find it yourself now as we've released certain bits through this. So let me get tube up and see, so I don't have to keep squinting that way. Get chat room up. I'll get back to you in a minute. Let me see how much we have before the next segue, because I'm getting a sore throat. It's been 3 hours and I don't want to ruin it. Should I stay or should I go now? Should I stay or should I go now? Should I stay? There's a lot of us. There's a lot more to go. Lesson 5, remain faithful to the idea. So day 5, lesson 5. How many pages? Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to do it. We're going to go up to day 5. And then we're going to end it there. So get your goodbyes and your thingies and your links and your fist bumps and your hearts and your arigato. And I will carry on and we will finish there. Just a little over 3 hours. I thought I'd have done this today, but it's too big. It's far too big. I and my Father are one. John 10:30. A man can receive nothing except it be given him from heaven. John 3:27. Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. John 10:17-18. Burn. G-man. You did not choose me. I have chosen you. You know, when I've said I didn't choose equity, equity chose me. That's when I saw that, I went, what do you mean? That's like when I say man didn't choose, and you can all say it. It's not my saying, but when I looked at it and I thought, coincidence, path crossing, destiny, fate, you know, name in Hebraic, David, take out the vowels, you've got the consonants, DVD, video, chat, YouTube, video, DVD, yeah, madness. So I didn't choose equity, equity chose me. You didn't choose equity, equity chose you. You did not choose me, I have chosen you. My concept of myself molds a world in harmony with itself and draws men to me constantly by their behavior. Who am I? Sounds like Jeopardy from America when you think of it like that. And magnetism, electromagnetism, attraction. You will attract good or bad in your life. It's all pinning together now. Murphy's law, Sod's law, explained a different way. The most important thing in this world to you is your concept of self. When you dislike your environment, the circumstances of life and the behavior of men, ask yourself, who am I? It is your answer to this question that is the cause of your dislikes. If you do not condemn self, there will be no man in your world to condemn you. If you are living in the consciousness of your ideal, you will see nothing to condemn. To the pure, all things are pure. Yeah, at this moment in time, quite hard, but the connotations of it, if more of us was, yes, and in the basic premise, yes, but really what's going on, it's getting to, like I say, time and probation is closing and short. Now I would like to spend a little time making as clear as I can what I personally do when I pray, what I do when I want to bring about changes in my world. You will find it interesting and you will find that it works. No one here can tell me they cannot do it. It is so very simple. All can do it. So we're going to close with the power of prayer and then end this on that segue. Well, that's worked out quite conveniently. We are what we imagine we are. This technique is not difficult to follow. You must all want to do it. You cannot approach it with the attitude of mind, oh, well, I'll try it and see. You must want to do it, because the mainspring of action is in fact desire. Desire. We need to change that word. What's another good word instead of desire, scribes? I'll let you choose one, and that's what we're going to change it to. Answers on the screen, please. Instead of without sire, desire, what else could we put there? Desire is the mainspring of all action. Now, what do I want? I must define my objective. For example, we're just going over old ground. He said this. Now, this is the third time, but so it gets drilled in. We'll carry on. Drill sergeant. For example, suppose I wanted to now be elsewhere. This very moment, I really desire to be elsewhere. I need not to go through the door. I need not sit down. I need do nothing but stand just where I am and with my eyes closed. Assume that I am actually standing where I desire to be. Then I remain in this state until it has the feeling of reality, where I now elsewhere could not see the world as I now see it from here. The world changes in its relationship to me as I change in my position of time and space. So I stand right here, close my eyes, and imagine I am seeing what I would see were I there. I remain in it long enough to feel it be real. I cannot touch the walls of this room from here, but when you close your eyes and become still, you can imagine and feel that you touch it. You can stand where you are and still you can imagine and feel what? I've missed a sentence out. I cannot touch and become still. You can stand where you are and imagine you are putting your hand on that wall. To prove you really are, put it there and slide it up and feel the wood. You can imagine the things that come out. Dirty mind. Slide it up and feel the wood. Imagine you are putting not a saint. We need a laugh. Imagine that you are potty mouth, putting your hand on that wall to prove you really are. Put it there and slide it up. Feel the wood. You can imagine you are doing it without getting off your seat. You can do it, and you will actually feel it if you become still enough and intense enough. Become still and intense enough. Okay, I don't know, those two words not often used together. I stand where I am and I allow the world that I want to see and to enter physically to come before me as though I were there now. In other words, I bring it elsewhere by assuming that I am there. Yes. Is that clear? I let it come up. I do not make it come up. I simply imagine I am there and let it happen. If I want a physical presence, I imagine he is standing here and I touch him. All through the Bible, I find these suggestions. He placed his hands upon them. He touched them. If you want to comfort somebody, what is the automatic feeling? To put your hand on them. You cannot resist it. You meet a friend and the hand goes out. Automatically, you either shake hands or put your hand on a shoulder, or you may hug, or you may and do the kissing and the whatever it is. Maybe social distancing day. There's no kissing anymore. Kissing is banned. Fist bumps are banned. Handshakes are banned. Hugging is banned. Well, okay then. I say that loosely and with and we move on. Suppose you are now to meet a friend that you have not seen for a year and he is a friend of whom you are very fond. What would you do? You would embrace that friend, wouldn't you? Or you would put your hand upon him. In your imagination, bring them close enough to put your hand upon them and feel them to be solidly real. Restrict the action to just that. I just had a weird flashback. I've just had a weird disco funk flashback. I've got Disco Stew, Lady Cop, To Be Real, absolute classic. Ladies, this one's for you. If you'd like to search on DuckDuckGo or YouTube, To Be Real. It is Lady Cop's the bootleg remix that I know through my ignorance. But there is a what you feel, do, ding, ding, ding. To be real, Disco Skew just came in, did like a little John Travolta dance in my head. To be real, it's the DJ in me that brings, and I have to speak it when I say it, or I'll forget it. To be real, Lady Cop. It isn't Lady Cop that's the original artist. 70s disco funk. I want you all. That's the theme tune to this cast and publication because of this segment, this lesson. To be real. Who is it that did the original? It's on Tip It Tongue because I have done this before. All right. To be real. And it's a disco funk tune. And I think if you put Lady Cop, you should find that one. That I had as a little bootleg, cheeky little number. But anyway, continuing on. Thanks, Disco Stew. You will be amazed at what happens. From then on, things begin to move. Your dimensionally greater self will inspire in all the ideas and actions necessary to bring you into physical contact. It works that way. What's on the top of a church? Aspire, inspire. You're in the spire when you're in the church. Shh. Every day I put myself into the drowsy state. It is a very easy thing to do. But habit is a strange thing in man's world. It's not law, but habit acts as though it were the most compelling law in the very world. We are creatures of habit. If you create an interval every day into which you put yourself into the drowsy state. What did you just say there, Indy? I need more clarification. The drowsy state? Well, continuing on. What is the drowsy state? 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Siesta time for the Mediterranean, I do believe, 2-3 p.m. Do you know at that moment every day you will feel drowsy? Try it for 1 week and see if I am not right. Sit down for the purpose of creating a state akin to sleep, as though you were sleepy, but do not push the drowsiness too far, just far enough to relax. And now I've got some exhibit going through my head. Wait a minute. To relax and leave you in control of the direction of your thoughts. You try it for 1 week, and every day at that hour, no matter what you're doing, you will hardly be able to keep your eyes open. Habit, yes, pattern. If you know the hour when you will be free, you can create it. I would not suggest that you do it lightly, because you will feel very, very sleepy, and you may not want to feel that way. We get high on the opposite of Nital. We got faith. We don't need Bibles. I hold the title, hear my recital. It's quite vital. Example. Stay awake. Stay awake for the longest time. It was wrong, it was long, it felt so right. See you at the finish line. It's just too many songs and things and correlations. I have to bring it to you because it's happiness. It's a good tune, that, even though it's cheesy and commercial. I've DJ'd that a lot. I've had good reactions from it. It was long, it was wrong, but it felt so right. The days when we used to be persons. Remember when we used to be persons? I have another way of praying. In this case, I always sit down and find the most comfortable armchair imaginable, or I lie flat on my back and relax completely. I know a young lady from Ealing who had a peculiar feeling. She lay on her back and opened up and all over the ceiling. Shh, make yourself comfortable. You must not be in any position. No Alison limericks. You must not be in a position where the body is distressed. Yes, I have a busy mind. Always put yourself into a position where you have the greatest ease. That is the first stage. No more limericks, please. To know what you want is the start of prayer. Secondly, you construct in your mind's eye a single little event which implies that you have realized your desire. I always let mind roam on many things that could follow the answered prayer, and I single out one that is most likely to follow the fulfillment of my desire. The way that the .com needs to grow, and the way that I designed it so it would be a 12 credits and promises donation, which equates to 25 pence a week, the very lowest minimum we could have. And I put at the top, within the first year of us standing, or the first couple of years, because it took a while to get it, the doors open, so to speak, digitally, and I'd like to have had 10,000 scribes come in, support us, so we could have had the resources and the consciousness and the resources to do things as man. So I said a prayer and I focused on that, and I believe I prayed wrong, and I had other works and jobs and duties to do within myself before the universe would answer that with like 10,000 scribes in the .com for us to have resources to be able to go out and make a change. So when you pray, I will put to you that I know firsthand that there are personal barriers and limitations of self of which you would need to overcome before you are allowed to be trusted and that prayer to be granted. All right, doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It means that there are certain tasks, jobs, duties, lessons to be learned and sacrifices to be made prior to the universe answering that. So to know what you want is the start of prayer, constructing your mind's eye. One simple little thing like the shaking of hand, embracing a person, the receiving of a letter, the writing of a check, or whatever would imply the fulfillment of thy desire. After you have decided on the action which implies that your desire has been realized, then sit in your nice comfortable chair or lie flat on your back, close your eyes, for the simple reason it helps to induce the state that borders on sleep. Sometimes when I speak, I close my eyes to recall information you may see on videos, and times you'll think, why is he closing his eyes? When I was younger, saw a man closing their eyes when they spoke. I found it very disturbing. Don't close your eyes. What are you doing? Going to sleep or speaking to me? But it's a point of clarity of which the visual is cut, and then you can concentrate because, yes, it helps there. All right, then. The minute you feel this lovely drowsy state or the feeling of gathered togetherness wherein you feel, I could move if I wanted to, but I do not want to, or I could open my eyes if I wanted to, but I do not want to. When you get that feeling, you can be quite sure that you're in the perfect state to pray successfully. Notice no church, no priest, no cardinal, no vicar, no flock, no pews, no font, no confessions. All right, so in this feeling, it is easy to touch anything in this world. You take the simple little restricted action which implies fulfillment of your prayer, and you feel it or you enact it. Whatever it is, you enter into the action as though you were an actor in the part. You do not sit back and visualize yourself doing it. You do with the body immobilized. You imagine the greater you inside the physical body is coming out of it, and that you are performing the proposed action. If you are going to walk, imagine that you are walking. Do not see yourself walk. Feel that you are walking. Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will lose all focus of the heavenly glory. Shh, where's that from? If you are going to climb stairs, feel that you are climbing the stairs. Do not visualize yourself doing it. Feel yourself doing it. If you are going to shake a man's hand or fist bump, do not visualize the fist bump and the shaking. Imagine the man is before you and you fist bump and shake accordingly. But leave your physical hands immobilized and imagine that your spiritual, metaphysical, greater hand, which is your imaginary hand, is actually doing so. All you need to do is imagine that you are doing it. You are stretched out in time, and what you are doing, which seems to be a controlled daydream, is actually acts in the greater dimension of your being. You are actually encountering an event fourth dimensionally before you encounter it here in the 3 dimensions of space, and you do not have to raise a finger to bring that state to pass. He's actually given a third way of prayer, 1.5 pages. I'm really struggling, all right. It's hard work, pardon me. I've got an upset tummy, a little bit of biliousness, gas. I'm trying to be polite, okay, and I'll continue on. My third way of prayer is simply to feel thankful. If I want bilious, if I want something either for myself or another, I immobilize the physical body. Then I produce the state akin to sleep, and in that state, just feel happy, feel thankful, which thankfulness implies realization of what I want. I assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and with my mind dominated by this single sensation, I go to sleep. I need do nothing to make it so, because it is so. My feeling of the wish fulfilled implies it is done. All these techniques you can use and change them to fit your... That last one was easy. And can't imagine that they was fist bumping in the 30s. Imagination. What have I just told you? Consciousness is reality. Imagine it. It is so. Imagine them fist bumping in the 30s. You really think that nobody did one of them in 30s? I bet they did. I bet somebody did. But I know what you mean. What? Hello? Monocle? Gives an elbow, you know. It's COVID elbow now, isn't it? We all do the elbow. Can't do the fist bump or, have you got your mask? You know, but imagination's a powerful thing. But I know what you mean, Gansders. I'm not having a go. It would be nice to imagine, though, wouldn't it, eh? Old Bugsies and what's spiffing. Rockefeller and Rothschild. We've done it again. The Bank of England is truly ours. We own all the bonds. It's our bank now. We've done it. All of these techniques you can use and change to fit them to your temperament, but I must emphasize the necessity of inducing the drowsy state where you can become attentive without effort. Notice there's no drugs, there's no alcohol, there's no external impact, all right? You need to be saying, you had an accident around the house and the wife says to you, what happened there? You fell down the stairs? Yes, well, I was in the drowsy state. You know, I drank 3 bottles of Nitol, or I drank lots of alcohol and moonshine, or what is it called now? Raki, and whatever, wherever you are, however you get drowsy. It's a natural drowsy state, okay? A single sensation dominates the mind if you pray successfully. What would I feel now were I what I want to be? When I know what the feeling would be like, then I close my eyes and lose myself in that single sensation, and my dimensionally greater self builds a bridge of incident to lead me from this present moment to fulfillment of my mood, young Padawans and Jedis. That is all you need to do. But people have a habit of lighting the importance of simple things. We are creatures of habit, and we are slowly learning to relinquish our previous conceptualizations, but the things we formerly lived by still in some way influence our behavior. Here is a story from the Bible that illustrates my point. It is recorded that Jesus told his disciples to go to the crossroads and they would find a colt, a young colt, not yet ridden by a man, to bring the colt to him and ask, and if any man ask, why do you take this colt? Say, the Lord has need of it. They went to the crossroads and they found the colt and did exactly as they were told. They brought the unbridled ass to Jesus and he rode it triumphantly into Jerusalem. The story has nothing to do with a man riding on a little colt. You are Jesus of the story. The colt is the mood you are going to assume. That is the living animal not yet ridden by ye. What would the feeling be like were you to realize your desire? A new feeling, like a young colt, is a very difficult thing to ride unless you ride him with a disciplined mind. If I do not remain faithful to the mood and the young colt throws me off, every time you become conscious that you are not faithful to this mood, you have then been thrown off the colt. So discipline your mind that you may remain faithful to a high mood and ride it triumphantly into Jerusalem, which indeed would be fulfillment, or the city of peace. The story precedes the feast of the Passover. If we would pass from our present state into that, yesterday me and Claudio were talking about Passover and it went very deep. Claudio, I need to link back up with you in a week and we need to do a video on all of this. Claudio's got some information, everyone, and I'd like to help bring it out, which is fulfillment of the city of peace. The feast of Passover from the present state into that of our ideal. We must assume that we already that which we desire to be and remain faithful to our assumption, for we must keep a high mood. If we would walk with the highest, a fixed attitude of mind, a feeling that is done, will indeed make it so. If I walk as though it were, but every once in a while I look to see if it really is, then I'll fall off my mood or colt. You get me, fam? If I would suspend judgment like Peter, I could walk on the water. Peter starts walking on the water, and then he begins to look unto his own understanding, and he begins to go down. So where we've said avoiding admiralty, Jesus not being a respecter of certain things, walking on the water, that's one literal translation turned into another translation of not being drowning in the admiralty maritime seas of commerce. So again, here's a number 2 for you. An exclusive by Indigo and Brother David. If you were to suspend judgment like Peter, you could walk on the water. Peter starts walking on the water and then begins to look unto his own understanding, and he begins to go down. The voice said, "Look up, Peter." Peter looks up and he rises again and continues walking on the water. So you got the looking down and the looking up. Not just Jesus walking on water there, but Peter walking on water. Instead of looking down to see if this is really going to harden into fact, you simply know that it is already so. Walking on hot coals. I hear what you're saying. Sustain that mood, and I'm not telling you to do, but to comparatively speaking, sustain that mood, and you will ride the unbridled colt into the city of Jerusalem. All of us must learn to ride the animal straight into Jerusalem, unassisted by man. You do not need another to help you. The strange thing is that as we keep the high mood and do not fall, others cushion the blows. They spread the palm leaves before me to cushion my journey. I do not have to be concerned. The shocks will be softened as I move into the fulfillment of my desire. Be like water. Bruce Lee, I think that's what you mean. Enter the Dragon. Yes, be like, not be the water. Be like water. Hard, soft, gaseous, etc. My high mood, yes, Barnster, awakens in others the ideas and actions which tend towards the embodiment of my mood. If you walk faithful to a high mood, there will be no opposition and no competition. The test of a teacher or teaching is to be found in the faithfulness of the taught. And you are quite faithful to I. So that means that as a teacher and a preacher, a messenger, that what does it mean? I am leaving here on Sunday night. Do remain faithful to this instruction. If you look for causes, well, I am leaving here in a few minutes and we'll be back soon for part 3. And I think it should be that way, as 3 is the magic number, considering all of the syncretism that's going off. If you look for causes outside the consciousness of authentic womb man, then I have not convinced you of the reality of your consciousness. If you look for excuses for failure, you will always find them, for you find what you seek. If you seek an excuse for failure, you will find it in the stars, in the numbers, in the teacup, in any most place. Oh, gone a little bit of Alan Watts sneaking in there, I do believe, a soupçon. The excuse will not be there, but you will find it to justify your failure. Successful business and professional men and women know that this law works. You will not find it in gossip groups, but you will find it in courageous hearts of lion men. Sorry, just in courageous hearts. It doesn't say lion men. Man's eternal journey is for one purpose, to reveal the Father. He comes to make visible his Father, and his Father is made visible in all the lovely things of this world. Now, I could go mathematical on that, but we're going on. All the things that are lovely, that are of good report, ride these things, and have no time for the unlovely in this world, regardless of what it may be. Remain faithful to the knowledge that your consciousness, your I amness, your awareness of being are the only reality. It is the rock on which the phenomena can be explained. There is no explanation outside of this. I know of no clear conception of the origin of phenomena, save that consciousness is all and all is consciousness. That which you seek is already housed within you. Were it not now within you, eternity could not evolve it. No time stretch would be long enough to evolve what is not potentially involved in you. You simply let it into being by assuming that it is already visible in your world and remaining faithful to your assumption. It's rude to point, but not to reiterate. It will harden into fact. Your Father has unnumbered ways of revealing your assumption. Fix this in your mind and always remember, an assumption, though false, if sustained, will harden into fact. Give me your name. Are you Mr. John Smith? Yes, I'm Mr. John Smith. Step into the dock. Under the doctrine of discovery, we have a fact, Mr. John Smith, but actually you're not Mr. John Smith. It's the name of your person. What? Carrying on. You and your Father are one. Your Father is everything that was and is and will be. Therefore, that which you seek, ye already are. It can never be so far off as even to be so near, for nearness implies separation. The great Pascal said, I do love that name, Pascal, you never would have sought me had you not already found me. Now, what you desire, you already have. And you seek it only because you have already found it. You found it in the form of desire. I'm looking for the word of desire. What can we change desire to? Did you type it? It is just as real as in the form of desire as it is going to be in your bodily organs. You are already that which you seek, and you have no one to change but self in order to express it. Finished. Yes. I'm starving, a little bit bilious. It's a lot of big sentences. It tires you out. We're doing an update in 9:30 on SPLs. I'm gonna have a 2.5 hour break, and I will meet those that are with us on the private domain to talk about things not of this nature, but of more political relevant nature, and this connotations of. Tomorrow, Kevin and I will be here live with you, casting the stream, broadcasting our spells and options across the oceans of potions, and we will see you again, and we can take that time tomorrow about 9:30. So 3 videos done this weekend, 2 public, 1 private, and the private one from 9:30 tonight, or 9:30. There's no R in half 9:30 tonight.com SPLs, and tomorrow about 9, maybe 8:30, 9:30, I'll confirm and let you know, and we'll all get back together for a right good chatter and speak. Tomorrow I'll be doing admin in the day, and that is epic, incredible. All right, so I'm glad we found the author, the title, and the information spreads. It's powerful, as within so without. You're going out there to look for things when it's always within. So it's just another same information that we've heard before, or others have given quick sentences and, quoting and regurgitation of others what they've heard, but now we've got an in-depth, comprehensive breakdown of what is, and how it is and why it is, So 1 lesson to go, page 70-something, 76 of 96, 20 to go. Nice to see you all, to see you nice. Let's just have a quick rewind on who's here. Barnes, Ernie, new scribes, those that are grey, stick around, earn the trust. You've got the respect immediately. Earn our trust and you'll be made blue very soon. Thank you to all of the new scribes of this channel. You've come at a weird time, an acceleration, a singularity moment of time. This channel's been here for some years, and there's at least 1,000 videos on here, and then 2,000 and somewhat liked videos. So there's a whole catalogue of craziness before you've arrived. You've arrived as we enter the private, as consciousness goes into 5D, after the celestial alignment and the conjunctions of the 21st of December 2020. The universal disclosure is now accompanied by Indy, David, and SPLS Pro Christian disclosure that hasn't been coined except now, not on a big scale. So it's our Christian disclosure to you, where we bring in Judaism, Islam and Christianity, Rastafarism, and also Buddhism, Hinduism, and all of these isms that they mentioned there, and we're gonna remix it. So welcome and thank you. It is a bit fast and busy, and there's support for you here. The chat, thank you for the 23 that are here now. The thumbs up if you've enjoyed this, you've laughed, you've giggled, you've found some enlightenment. Please reciprocate, show me the love. I've showed you how it works. We continue to show you how it works. Good moral deeds formally actions that you do or execute will bring back to you. All right, reaping what you sow. Share it. All right, introduce Brother David, Indy, and if you can come and join us in the private, brilliant, much love. We need the resources, help and support, and we will continue to push forward incrementally. All right, Ernie, Anisu, Anesu, Lisa, Shaba. I'm just shouting out names to say thank you while I'm on here to show respect and love. Robert, easy now. Much love. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Lisa, that's of the M, not the G's. Bert, aka Albert. Steve, bless, bless. Thank you. It's a family thing. It is indeed. 3 hours 38. If I was to get all the hours back I've done videos, what would I spend? Thank you very much to one and all. I've given a shout out, Stephen. That will be of the M clan. Did I see a little Kevin icon there that I missed? I don't know. That was Black Cat. So I was scrolling fast. I've shouted everybody out then. So that's it. You're done. Much love. Part 2. Now going to be a part 3. And there will be a playlist made. So if you have arrived here after watching part 1, thank you. Blessings. Proper bow, I tell thee. Much love. What you do for yourself, you do unto others, eh? What you do for others, you do unto yourself. So, aye, Savalai, much love, thank you. And, yeah, share it with those that have been confused, maybe. And they know about Bible and that. This kid here, he knows a bit about Bible. Have a listen to him. And with regards to happenings and futures, shows and casts that we're going to do, I will be updating you via the usual outlets in due course, in advance, and you will be knowing, and hopefully we'll see you there. Your family begins to grow, strengthen, and big things are on the horizon. Horrors shall rise on. Bless up. Ciao.